everyone, and welcome to Raid Masters Naxxramas, the ultimate World of Warcraft classic vanilla speedrunning event focusing on the most difficult raid in vanilla itself. My name's Esquire. I'm joined by two lovely gentlemen, Mr. GM and Sarth, who are going to be walking you through the action as we go through it all over the next 2 weeks. But Raid Masters, my friends, brought to you by G-Loot, Warcraft Logs, and HyperX. It is going to be just a stellar event, guys, and I can't wait for all of you to enjoy it along with us. But before we get into all of that, my friends, let's go ahead and get some introductions out of the way. Mr. GM and Sarth, like I said, your commentators over the next 2 weeks. Mr. GM, go ahead and let everyone know who they're going to be listening to.
What's up, everybody? How's it going? Yeah, pretty excited to be here. It's definitely going to be a first for me. I think a classic WoW event of this caliber is something that has been needed for a long time, and I'm super looking forward to it. So yeah, I'm Mr. GM, Dan. You can call me whatever you want. Yeah, and I just play loads of World of Warcraft. Honestly, like most people, I'm sure. Classic, retail, all of it. Right? It's all just fantastic.
And then we've also got Sarth, your other commentator for the event. Sarth, let them know who they're talking to.
What's up, everybody? My name is Sarth, and this is basically my bread and butter. We will be going over some of the fastest runs in the world with the fastest guilds in the world. And as a World of Warcraft player, I basically focus most of my time in World of Warcraft Classic on the speedrun scene and covering the speedrun scene. So this is something I'm really, really excited about and really looking forward to, hoping we can see that first sub 50-minute run this tournament.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, Mr. GM and Sarth. But everyone, viewers out there, welcome to you again to pretty much the pinnacle of World of Warcraft classic raiding, but speedrunning as well, which pushes these players to the ultimate test of their abilities and game knowledge to see if they're going to be able to come out on top. But before we get into the rest of the event today, let's talk about what we're going to be looking at over the next 2 weeks, the format. Yes, of course, this is going to be your Naxxramas Speedrun, where the guilds have 2 attempts over the course of 2 weeks to post the fastest time that they are able to achieve. Quickest run at the end of those 2 weeks is going to be the run that takes home the grand prize. We'll switch over to the rules, I believe, as well now. The rules have been set up with Warcraft log rules in mind. No trash skips, world buffs will be allowed. The trash requirements are going to be in place, so there are a certain number of every particular type of mob within the instance that have to be killed in order for these groups to qualify for their particular speedruns. Plus 5 minutes for any raider swaps that end up taking place, any personnel that have to be subbed in. And then you are limited to only 5 flasks of petrification. And we'll talk about the implications of that later with Sarth. As we move on over, one of the more important things, one of the things that these groups of players are going to be very, very interested in, well, of course, that's the prize pool, ladies and gentlemen. $10,000 in total is what these teams are going to be walking away with. First place prize, though, the winner of Naxxramas Raid Masters will be going home with $4,000 cash. Second place with $2,500 cash. Third place with $2,000, and then the opposing faction winner, the team of the opposing faction with the best time, will also get a prize of $1,500. So a very exciting 2 weeks ahead of us, my friends, and I cannot wait for us to break into it. We've got 15 of the top guilds groups from around the world who are going to be staking it all on the line here to try to walk home as the victors. And our schedule for today, well, here's the pre-show. You got it right now. After we close out this segment, we'll be progressing over into round 1 of the European runs. After that, we go through a quick breakdown. A break after that part of the broadcast, though, before we transition over into a few hours later this evening for the North American show. Pretty much same as the first, however, just a different region tonight. So make sure that you stay tuned for both of those broadcasts. You are not going to want to miss this spicy action. At the end of the day, we'll be closing out and then taking you in to tomorrow, where we pretty much come back for it all once again. But Sarth, Mr. GM, let's go ahead and at least start to shine a light on what we're going to be seeing here in this first run. We've got 2 pretty incredible guilds, Scripted and Praxis, who will be competing. I'd say guinea pigs, the first guilds to get out there and really show what they're made of. So I guess we'll just go ahead and start it out. Sarth, I mean, what are we expecting to see from these 2 guilds in general?
So currently, these two guilds are some of the top guilds in the world, but they have the times of Praxis. Fastest time right now is 1 hour and 8 minutes, and scripted is 1 hour and 17 minutes, which if you look at the breakdown between Horde and Alliance, the fastest Alliance guild and the fastest Horde guild are about 8 minutes apart. So they're somewhat similar to that in their difference in times. But the real biggest thing that I think is going to be happening today is going to be their difference in the strategies they employ. Because in their last breakdown, they actually had quite a few strategies that were pretty much used in the older circuses. So a lot of strategies they didn't employ into the speedrun circus from their last runs. And it'll be really interesting to see how they go about bringing new things in. One thing in particular would be the 4 horsemen kill. Both of these guilds in their fastest runs have had 4 horsemen kills that were around 3 minutes long, where the fastest in the guild or in the world right now and the average is about 1 minute and 35 seconds to 1 minute and 43 seconds. So their 4 horsemen kills were a lot slower, and that's something that's going to save them time. But then that just translates to really the longest time save in all of the raid is going to be how quickly they move through the trash and deal with that themselves.
Gotcha, great insight there. I mean, Mr. GM, what do you expect from these two guilds? Do you think there might be a bit of a Horde Alliance rivalry clashing in the very first match of the day?
Look, all I'm saying, the Alliance are going to win. Look, let's. it's classic. You know, you got those paladins. It's gonna be Alliance, but you know, it's interesting. It's interesting as Sarth said. Like, you know, with the differences in time between the Horde and Alliance, it's so interesting to me. Just kind of like, you know, this isn't a scene that I'm like extremely versed in, right? I've been kind of doing a little bit of research here and there the last couple of weeks, and it's so interesting. Like, this is just like insane to me. Like all of this speed running and like the fact that the Alliance are on top, which is completely opposite to retail, hilariously, but you know, Classic got it right. Alliance on top, and yeah, it's intriguing to me, honestly. Like the differences with just having those paladins, and like looking at the composition of some of the Horde guilds, like they all just run like a ton of resto shamans or shamans or however you want to say it, and yeah, it's cool, and I'm looking forward to seeing like how they match up against each other.
We talked about scripted and Praxis. I believe we might have a graphic showing all of our competitors here over the course of the next 2 weeks. If we do, we'll pop into that and give you a glimpse at what 15 guilds or groups are going to be putting it all on the line here. Well, there you have it. Praxis, scripted, salad bakers. We've also got a tribe. I believe we've got gaslighting as well. Senseless, maximum effort, Goosey, salesman, none of the above. And then 5 more competitors on the tail end of the leaderboard as well. But as you guys can see, I mean, we have some stellar names that have shown up to compete here. The names that, if you guys have been watching Warcraft logs over the last, well, I mean, geez, pretty much all of Classic's duration, some of these should be very familiar to you. Some of them not so much, and that's what kind of makes this exciting as we progress into really the groundbreaking tournament that offers players an incentive, an opportunity, a platform to showcase those skills. So we pop out of that, and guys, I mean, we've got a few things coming up here. We've got some very exciting content that revolves around this competition as well, and one of those are going to be our insights into these certain guilds, but also more specifically into a certain number of players from these guilds. That's one thing that we haven't really gotten to, I guess, maybe do over the course of Classic Vanilla. We know these big powerhouse guilds. I mean, we see the list that we just looked at, but we haven't really gotten to meet a lot of the players behind the guild names themselves. And so we've got a lot of interviews with those members of those guilds over the next 2 weeks that I'm very excited to bring to you all as well. And I think if we are sure here, we might have an interview with our first member of Praxis. It is going to be Taiba with a lovely interview, hopefully shedding some light on what he and his guild are going to be looking to do today.
So my name's Taiba. I play on Zandlar Tribe, and I'm the raid leader, main tank of rank 14 warrior of Praxis. We are a hardcore guild, like I'm sure most people in this competition are, who would have described ourselves as TBC players coming into this. Never played Classic before, seriously. Kind of walked into this, to be fair. There was very little prep going into Classic. However, getting to the point where we're at now, there is a lot of prep that goes into it, and I I do have an extensive team of officers with me. It's not just me. To be honest, I get carried. I'm not going to lie. I'm not sure how many people have admitted that who we've spoken to who call themselves raid leaders, but yeah, I generally come up with the plan, spreadsheet it all, put out a speedrun strategy, and then I have a team of officers helping me do the assignments, telling people in the raid what they need to do, etc. So I do the strategy, and my officers implement it because I'm lazy, really. I'll be honest. Yeah, I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for the 120 or so people I've got on that Discord, all day, every day, spending so much time with each other, playing all sorts of games. Coming back from work and being able to log on voice with these people keeps me going, keeps me doing it, definitely. Yeah, it's 40 people in a voice channel, and there are calls going from all sorts of people when things get heated, when things go wrong particularly. All sorts can go wrong, and comms start flying, and it's my voice, which is the meme of clear comms screamed across voice, and hopefully, but not often, everyone shuts up. Yeah, it can get really hectic, and I know most people, you can't really hear their comms on their run, so I have no idea how our comms compare to other guilds. I have no idea. However, I do stream my comms publicly, and it regularly gets commented on how hectic it can get. But saying that, there's been a few times in Classic where we've clutched a good run out, and we're hoping for a top 5 finish, which is very ambitious for us. Hopefully we don't finish last, that's what I'm hoping for, and this is going to get clipped, and no doubt if we do. But yeah, the main thing will be getting a clean run, for sure, and I think there'll be a lot of people who will do something riskier and maybe risk not getting a good time at all. I think we're going to play it a little bit safer just because of what we have at the moment. Hoping to do well, not bottom, but probably not top, being honest.
Big shout out to Taiba of Practice for providing us with that interview. Mr. GM, big takeaways from what you just heard.
He's not very confident, is he? He's like, yeah, we're not going to win, but we're not going to lose. I guess it's the British way. I guess that's how it is. Never too confident. But no, he seemed like a cool guy. I'm looking forward to seeing how they perform. Hopefully, they perform a lot better than they're expecting or he's expecting. But yeah, it sounds cool, man. I'm really looking forward to this. I just want to get into the runs, honestly, man. I'm like really excited for this.
I know what you mean. Sorry, any takeaways from you as well from that interview? Maybe about how large that roster is. 120 people in the Discord, you said.
Yeah, there was a few things that he mentioned that really stuck with me. That is a pretty large roster, and of course you bring in 40 raid members, but having enough people that can help you coordinate things, like putting together the spreadsheets or doing assignments, has to be one of the most taxing things as a guild or raid leader, and just having that help just absolutely makes it so that you can do your job a lot better and also focus on improving your strategies as a guild. So I think that's really good, and he touched on that, and that's something that really is core towards any of the top guilds or any strong guild, where it's not just one person doing everything. The officer core really does help you out, and if you're trying to do it all yourself, it's really, really taxing. And then he also mentioned that they just want to have a clean run. And that is, I love that he said that, because that is basically the whole thing that made None of the Above win the race in AQ. None of the Above won the race because they have just #Don'tDie. And Salad Bakers was in the contention and lost by like 8 seconds, but because they died. It's something that if you lose especially a warrior or a melee DPS early on in one of these raids, it can be the difference between them overall doing 800,000 DPS or damage to 2.4 million damage in that raid. And with a raid this long, it really adds up every time you lose someone. So I think if they actually take this strategy of just playing it safe, they could have a much better time than they actually anticipate.
Hey, they certainly might. Thank you for that insight, gentlemen. And again, a big shout out to Taiba of Practice for that interview. But before we get into the first run of the day, guys, it is just around the corner. Let's take a look at the centerpiece of what this event is all about. That is the raid Naxxramas. Let's take a look now.
Naxxramas, the giant floating necropolis which serves as the base of operations for one of the Lich King's most powerful officers and the final boss, Kel'Thuzad. The guilds are tasked to defeat Kel'Thuzad and the other 14 bosses in as quick of a time as possible to become the raid masters of Naxxramas. The raid is split up into 4 different wings: the Abomination Wing, the Death Knight Wing, also known as the Military Wing, the Plague Wing, and the Spider Wing, and each guild may choose their own order in which to deal with these. Starting with the Spider Wing, which is considered one of the easiest wings with some of the shortest boss fights in this raid. A new Bracon is no challenge for these guilds, as his characteristic ability, Locust Swarm, is completely skipped and his adds are cleaved down on top of the boss right away. More interestingly is the Trash before Grand Widow Fairlina, the second boss. This Trash is one of the most unforgiving and risky of the entire raid, and could cause the run to be over if failed, even though it's one of the first pulls of the dungeon. However, where we have seen different strategies being used to clear the room as quickly as possible, a notable pull will be most likely used that includes pulling over 110 mobs together, and with a coordinated use of sapper charges, they are instantly killed. Grand Widow Fairlina is no challenge to these guilds, and they are more interested in bringing the boss to the exit of the room to move on than they are with any of the mechanics. Myexna is the last boss of this wing, but has the shortest fight duration of all the bosses in the raid, with a kill time of just over 30 seconds. We can expect the top guilds to use most of their damage cooldowns here, just to make sure that she dies before using Web Wrap, an ability that stuns the entire raid for 10 seconds while she keeps attacking the tank. Plague Wing is a very famous wing, as it persists of Hygen the Unclean, but before him is Noth the Plaguebringer, where players must be focused on dispelling the curse of the Plaguebringer before it causes an entire raid wipe. The next boss is Hygen, which is often associated with his dance mechanic Eruption, which causes green goo to erupt from the floor, and the question is, are the guilds going to complete the famous safety dance of defeating the boss without losing any players, or will someone lose their step? While the wing may be one of the easier ones, the last boss, Lotheb, can be a threat to some guilds, and without great cooldown rotation from the tanks and coordination from the healers to establish a healing rotation on the tank, as they will get a debuff that only allows them to cast 1 healing spell every minute, the raid will wipe. The raid itself relies on consumables to stay alive, as the healers are all focused on keeping the tank alive. Next up is the Death Knight Wing, which consists of one of the harder bosses. The first boss, Instructor Resuvius, is one of the most punishing bosses in the game. He hits incredibly hard, and the raid relies on the priests to mind control the adds and use their abilities to tank the boss. But if a mind control drops for even a second, it could spell instant death for the highest threat member of the raid. The second boss is Gothic the Harvester, and this boss is no threat to these raids, so instead all of the top guilds have noticed that the gates of the boss's room actually don't stop enemies from passing through them. So speedruns will see hunters pulling trash in between Gothic and 4 horsemen to save time after the boss, and for something to do during the long phase 1 of this encounter. The last boss of this wing is no other than the 4 horsemen, a rather famous fight because of the fact that you are fighting 4 bosses and their individual proximity mark ability, which is increasingly deadly. It is important not to be greedy when it comes to this ability, and the guild's patience are tested here once again. But it is also during these times that small margins can be gained and perfectly timed calls can make a big difference. Lastly, we have the Abomination Wing. We meet Patchwork, who is known for hitting extremely hard, and is a matter of being patient and letting between 2 and 4 tanks build threat before the raid starts attacking. But here, small margins can be gained through bravery or loss of world buffs through impatience. Next, we have Grobulus, one of the easier bosses in the raid, which some guilds pull simultaneously with Trash to save time as he's patrolling around and standing in the way of some of the mobs. Moving on to Gluth the dog. It is said he is being fed an army of zombies daily because of his appetite, but these guilds have so much damage that we won't get to see many of his abilities, nor his characteristic Decimate ability. More interestingly, however, is the pipe leading up to this boss, where we have seen some raiders slip and fall all the way to the start of the wing. Thaddeus, on the other hand, is a boss of coordination and is very unforgiving. A single player can cost the entire guild dearly by misplacing themselves after a polarity shift and causing a wipe. Once all wings have been cleared, the Frostwing layer opens and unlocks Sapphiron, a large threat to many guilds because of the boss's frost aura, dealing extremely high raid damage every other second and forcing the guilds to swap to their frost resistance gear. When the frozen dragon has been defeated, the guilds must take on the final boss, Kel'Thuzad, the longest fight in this raid. While the first phase of this fight isn't something most guilds fear, it is when the boss starts to attack the raid himself that he becomes truly terrifying. With punishing mechanics that can instantly kill players, powerful minions that spawn, and a multi-target mind control that can cause unexpected deaths, perfecting this fight is a must to have a chance to become the raid masters.
Well, there it is, an outstanding first look, or well, maybe for some, of what Naxxramas is going to be kind of packing for these teams here and what they're going to be going up against. But before we continue on throughout this pre-show, I mean, guys, listen, Nax, I mean, it's the pinnacle of WoW vanilla rating. I certainly have a very big place in my heart for Naxxramas, and I'm sure you two do as well. Mr. GM, I got to ask, what's your favorite encounter in Naxxramas, and maybe why?
It's so normal, right? It would just be like, okay, yeah, it's Katie, right? Let's not be around the bush. It's an awesome fight. I'm pretty sure it takes place in Northrend as well, right? When you look outside the windows, it's actually all snowy and stuff like that. So obviously back in vanilla WoW, pretty darn cool. Yeah, just an awesome fight. Like you just, you're in the middle, the things are coming out, and you don't actually fight him for a long time. You've got the Lich King shouting at the same time as well. It is just nuts. And yeah, I think that personally is just a really cool fight. It's
sorry, what about? Oh yeah, sorry.
That's it. That's basically yeah. I just really enjoy it.
All right, that's it. Sorry. What about you? What's your favorite encounter in Nax?
Oh, that was actually, I was going to go with one different one until I heard the Lich King. I was like, okay, actually my favorite is probably Sapphiron, because I just like the idea as a rogue. Personally, I can do a lot of damage to the boss while he's up in the air. And if you accidentally get caught in a surprise blizzard or you're out of position and you're just going to die to his frost blast, all you need to do is vanish and you're safe, but everyone else has to die. So as a rogue main, that is probably my favorite. But my second, because I want to talk about it, has got to be a noob. A noob is the first boss in Spiderwing, and whenever you get to go there and cleave the ads, as any class, you can just do such insane damage. Like as a rogue now, you can peak at over 5,000 DPS, which feels so good. And if you can kill the boss faster, hoping for that to happen, then you can just get those 100 parses and get top in the world. That's one of the most fun fights, just because you're pretty much cleaving the entire first 40 or 60% of the boss, and then you're just finishing it off.
Hey, very valid points. For me, my favorite fight happens to be Thaddeus, and for a few certain reasons as well. So Thaddeus, there's so many opportunities to die. You got tank swaps on the mini bosses before Thaddeus. In my guild, it might happen, but it's really going to be the jump that seems to catch some people up. After the jump, then we have the mages cowboying up. They're popping ignites too far. They don't have the lips. They're not getting the bops. I mean, it's utter chaos. So for me, Thaddeus happens to be my favorite fight. But thank you very much, gentlemen, for that insight on that. Let's talk about, well, we've talked about some of the European guilds that are going to be participating during this time slot. Let's talk about some of the North American guilds that are coming in to participate as well. Those guilds going to be highlighted right here. 3 North American guilds, all happening to be Alliance. You have Rise, Reign, and Turbo Bus. Gentlemen, at least we've got some big names here. We've got some very familiar names here. I happen to hail from Reign. Okay, I know many of these individuals, and certainly Rise and Turbo Bus have made names for themselves over the last few months. of Classic WoW. But let's talk about this. Is there anything in particular, Sar, that you might expect from one of these three guilds or all of them?
Rise and Reign, especially, I think, are going to have some insane runs. Rise this week, actually, in the last 2 days, even their Guild 2 run or their Raid 2 was one of the top 10 in the world. So they yesterday put up a time that put them up at number 5 in the world. It was actually 4 at the time, but then Tribe ran today. So this is just an incredible guild. And then Reign, that you obviously come from, came out of nowhere, it seemed, in the Naxxramas scene to just absolutely dominate. And they're just hailing from Fairlina, which is showing or known as the streamer server. But to see a guild come from that server and actually dominate in the scene is amazing. And I even personally have talked to quite a few people in there that are doing a lot of the theory crafting and strategies, and they are pretty much gonna be or pretty cutting edge on the strategies. So if the guilds can employ these strats very well, they easily have a chance to more than surprise if people think that NA can't be as good. These two guilds, and then Turbo Bus as well, coming in with hopefully the sleeper pick, which will be really fun to see if they come in and just take the number 1 spot. But all of these guilds have just incredible teams, and they have the potential absolutely to take these number 1 spots.
Thank you, Sar. Mr. GM, we've seen the breakdown of European versus North American guilds. What's your takeaway there? I mean, it's at least it's like 3-1, I believe, for the ratio between North American and EU guilds.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the Warcraft logs here at the like the different guilds and stuff of the different regions, it's like, yeah. So you mentioned Rise obviously being number 5, and as you said, it was today, right? They posted that the 9th. Oh no, yesterday they would have got
Tribe beat them today, so they were 4, and then now they're 5.
That's still crazy though. I mean, you look at the differences between like 1st and 5th. It's what, like 3 minutes. It's really not that much at all. I mean, the differences and in the times between these guilds is just so minimal. Like you talk about Turbo Bus, they're at 41 in the world, right? But they're only like 10 minutes behind, or like about 15 minutes behind number 1. So yeah, I'm very curious to see what happens with this one. But I think with the added kind of like pressure, I guess, of winning some prize money for this, we're going to see some people really either doing very well or kind of maybe folding under the pressure of this. So I'm very curious to see how it goes.
Well, yeah, I think it's safe to say the pressure might be felt by these guilds a little bit more so than they had in the past. I mean, this is a global platform for them to be broadcast. Everyone's going to be watching. Money's on the line. I mean, a lot of things are on the line here for these teams. And when we're talking about the margin of error for these runs, I mean, we're talking seconds, maybe, a few seconds is what dictates whether it's a world first run or if it's going to be a world second, which nobody really talks about. Everyone wants to know about the world first run, or in terms of the first time. And those seconds, well, those could be dictated by very small, minor mistakes that we are going to be looking for throughout the next 2 weeks of these runs. So that is certainly exciting. But gentlemen, it is almost that time. The first run, it is about to kick off. Before we get into that, let's talk predictions. Okay, we've got a Horde guild and we've got an Alliance guild. They're going to be going head to head here. What are we looking to see here, Sarth? We'll start with you.
Looking to see differences in raid compositions really is the change. Horde have the advantage of Shamans and Wind Fury, which makes Warriors even more powerful because you pretty much have infinite rage as a warrior either way, but Wind Fury is just actually insane for overall damage. It's very, very helpful. But then again, mages are the big damage dealers on some of these bosses and especially AoE fights. Warriors are capped out at 4 mobs they can attack with Whirlwind, and Cleave only hits 2. So for these big AoE fights, they need mages. So that's the big difference in composition is either some Horde guilds will opt to go all warriors, which we've actually seen in the world fastest Horde guild right now. It's no mages and just 1 warlock there for Curse of Recklessness. And then some guilds will opt for a more standard practice, which is basically swapping out the shamans for the paladins. I would say Alliance still does have the advantage here. Blessing of Kings just scales so well later in the game that 10% extra stats from all of your better gear that you have later in the game just gets even better as you get stronger. And then Paladins also can set up some crazier pulls, like we might see. I'm hoping we see the Faralina pull or a Spiderwing pull, where Paladins will use bubbles to gather up every mob before the boss, and then use a Flask of Petrification, one of their 5 only ones, that will let them just sit there as everybody comes in and blows it all up. So Paladins can set that up a lot easier. Horde can as well set it up, but you can't actually group up as many mobs, which means it's less risky, but you also can save less time with it.
So in this run where 2 factions are going head to head, SAR seems to be leaning towards the Alliance. Mr. GM, do you have a difference of opinion here, or are you going to be agreeing as well?
Yeah, it's Alliance. Come on. I mean, Sarth just laid it out, right, with the Paladins and the bubbles and everything like that, man. Like, there's no contest. I'll be very surprised. I'm so curious to see the differences between these 2 runs, right? That's going to be so awesome, especially side by side, right? We're going to be able to see that kind of happening in live, in real time. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the differences for sure. But yeah, Paladins, come on.
Okay, well, gentlemen, thank you for those predictions. I believe the runs are just getting prepared for us right now. We've got a few more minutes before we pop into those. You know, Sarth, I got to ask you, it's something that's kind of lingering in the minds of people before we actually hop into the runs and see where these guilds are going to be starting off. What's your take on where these guilds are going to be starting in terms of the wings? What are they going to be looking to accomplish there at the beginning of this raid, where maybe some time can really be made up, or some time can be kind of sped through and you can avoid some of those pitfalls?
I first want to say I love that question, so thank you for bringing that up. These 2 guilds in particular that we're about to see right now both have unconventional wing strategies. Currently, the fastest raids in the world are starting Spider Wing, and there's a couple things you can do at the beginning to save time, which is either go into the Plague Wing or go into potentially the Military Wing to clear out some trash while you have a Paladin or a Hunter group up different mobs in the Spider Wing, everything before the first boss. And so you're clearing out trash in another wing and then running back there and killing all of that right away with either your Ramseen's Lightning Bolts, which is a trinket that does AoE damage. Usually a grenade is used here, not Goblin Sapper Charge, which is like the ideal thing for AoE damage, but you need to save that for the Faralina trash pull that I was talking about earlier, because you won't have enough time in between here and there to get it back off CD, which is 5 minutes. But these guilds that we're seeing right now actually do have a different strategy, which is Praxis goes into DK Wing last, which the Military Wing last is something that we used to see early on in Naxxramas speedruns, but now we see more so people going for Lotheb last, or either Lotheb for Horde usually, or Thaddeus last for Alliance. And DK Wing last just means you move on from 4 Horsemen straight into Saffron. But if you actually go into Thaddeus or Lotheb last, if you go into Thaddeus, you can have that debuff on yourselves. And at 30 seconds, you can have everybody run into the room and engage Saffron, because Saffron doesn't actually start fighting until 30 seconds in.
Well, thank you very much again, Sarth, for that insight. Ladies and gentlemen, here it is. Raidmasters Naxxramas is kicking off with the first run. Sarth, Mr. GM, bring us all the action. Take it away, gentlemen.
All right, welcome everybody. This is it. This is our very first look into the game, and we're looking at Naxxramas, of course. As you can see, the raid composition there is all laid out on the top left of his screen right there. Very nice UI, using the default UI as well, which I like to see. As a filthy casual, it's it's nice to see. Yeah, Thunder Fury as well. Thunder Fury is, that ridiculous weapon, right? It's gonna be good till, I mean, obviously with BC Classic coming up, that's gonna be good until like Black Temple, right? I believe if they are planning on going into
yeah, it should be
Crusade, right?
One thing that's interesting that you can notice that they actually kind of messed up here and didn't wait long enough to grab both of these groups instantly. So it's a little bit sketchier, They moved in slightly early there. They're not doing a big spider wing pull to start it off, but you can see that they are starting in spider, which is the general meta currently. Another thing is that he did put on double consecrated sharpening stones, and in the spider wing, in a slower run, usually you would use normal sharpening stones because you're not actually attacking undead that often. But in speed runs, you can just put on your consecrated stones. You're not going to lose out on that much DPS, and you would rather have that up right away than actually wait anytime later in the run. Here they pull the Patchwork Golems into the Spider Wing, which is something that's really, really well done, and everybody has to use a free action potion so they don't get stunned and instantly die to the cleave there, but that's just going to save them time later and also free up their potion cooldown for when they move into the Abomination Wing. So this is a very clean, very textbook Spider Wing where they're not doing any crazy pulls, but very fast and very clean as they move right into a new Brucon.
Man, like as I said, like this is one of the, I've seen a few Naxxramas speedruns, but just seeing it live and kind of happening, it's like clockwork. Like realistically, like how many times have practice done this sort of run? Like how many times have they, like, let's say, I don't know, like obviously Phase 6 came out was it November, I think? I want to say November, December last year. So, and obviously, presumably they would have done it previously on, other servers and whatnot. So.
And they also have the PTRs available now. So then most guilds in the top are actually going in there and practicing, which is something that will actually be really annoying for some of the later guilds. One thing that happened there on a new Brucon is they actually got web wrapped late. So the web wrap from the ads came out after a noob, the boss, had knocked a lot of the melee up into the air. So it looked like a lot of the melee weren't allowed to DPS the boss, which does lose them out on some time. But they did go and pull a trash pack from the military wing, the first trash pack. That was very clean play, and the Hunter is something that in all of these speedruns we should always be watching out for, because the Hunter pulling is pretty much the most crucial thing to overall speedrun time. The Hunter is always going to be moving forward and pulling the next trash pack into the raid group.
That's incredible. It's like, yeah, as I said, like it's like clockwork. It's absolutely mesmerizing to see them just get these pulls from like different wings and stuff while they're doing that. Like with the last boss, they were already walking out the door as they were killing the boss. Like it's actually insane. I mean, with like a run like this, obviously they have like 2 attempts on getting the time for this event. I mean, which boss is going to be like a real issue, like potential deaths and things like that? Because obviously you see they're fully decked out in world buffs and whatnot, right? Obviously, but
yes.
A death is so detrimental in classic, for sure, right? So I mean, is there any bosses that are like really kind of a bit dodgy sometimes?
The scariest parts of this raid are usually Instructor Vesuvius, where a priest or the priests mess up and the ads actually drop. Here there's a lot of trash that's being pulled in. They do need AoE rotation taunts, and you can see actually the weak auras of people saying out loud the time left on their AoE taunts. There you use AoE taunts timed with a lip, a limited invulnerability potion usually, or sometimes you would use shield wall, but generally you use a lip just so that nobody else will die. So all of the mobs are just attacking the tank that is AoE taunting, which all warriors should be set up to do. So here we're going to see if they do Fairlane pull. It looks like they're opting not to. They're playing more safe, which is going to be to just the standard rotation of having the Hunter pull all of these acolytes and all of these cultists all out to the raid group, which is a lot safer than the play of gathering all of this up and trying to kill it all instantly, because there is a lot of AoE damage that comes out here.
So would they pull Fairlane with that pull, or
they would pull everything before the boss, everything in the room before the boss, and then they would usually invisibility potion up to it, and on an exact timer they would all have to use sapper charges. All 40 people using goblin sapper charges at the exact time, and if one person is a second early, everyone will die, which happened to Salad Bakers yesterday on their attempt for a world record speedrun. So hopefully that does not happen in their next run during these heats.
Yeah, I could imagine like the pressure of something like this is, individual pressure as well. 40 people, you really have to be on your game when going into these runs. I mean, it's like, I guess one thing that was kind of curious to me is like gear-wise, right? So obviously, is everyone kind of in their bis, or are they still kind of looking for any sort of loot when they do these runs?
I think at this point in Classic, most people are very close. Usually these guilds will be running split raids, which basically means they're running multiple different raids and bringing their mains to one raid and their ult to other raids when they're not doing speedruns. And basically all of the gear will be funneled to the mains in those raids.
Okay.
And that is something that early on in Naxxramas, the Chinese guilds actually had a huge advantage over any other guilds because there was basically 8 splits they could go to, and they were GDKPs, so guild buy or gold buying raids, where pretty much everyone in the Chinese guilds, noobs especially, had full bis within almost 1 month of Naxxramas releasing. But now I think the gear differential is coming to a lot smaller of a close.
Yeah. I guess that's the thing with Classic specifically, like everyone, you kind of know exactly what your bis is, you know exactly what you're going for. And I love that about Classic as well. You have this kind of like checklist of gear, like, and once you've hit that pinnacle, it's, when you've got another warrior who's got the exact same gear as you, you're literally on a skill by skill basis. You're not on like, he had better gear than me or anything like that, which is super interesting to me. And that's really like one of the big things I really enjoy about Classic for sure.
Yeah, because with retail, there's quite a few different like sets you can use, and that's actually something that moving into TBC after this is something where people can go for different builds, like haste builds or crit builds, and you have to sim your own gear yourself. But in Classic, it's pretty straightforward. Every single gear piece has a bis, and there's always like what's second best, what's third best. It doesn't really change for the most part, unless sometimes you can swap things with world buffs or not. And one thing to mention on the gear as well is that during Trash, most warriors, even the DPS warriors, will be using more of a stamina set. So it's a lot safer to use a stamina set than just a pure DPS output set. And that is mainly so that you don't accidentally pull aggro and die. And Naxxramas has a lot of times where, even as a casual warrior, you're probably tanking things.
Right. Okay, yeah. I really love the insight. Like, I really do, man. Like, it's so great. I mean, for you personally, like, how many do you like? Obviously, do speedruns and things like that?
Yeah, my guild is number 11 in the world for Horde right now, and we're trying to do sub 1 hour after this stream today. So hopefully, we'll get top 4.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I'd see everyone in the chat asking about the timers and stuff. We're currently working on it. Production are just getting the timers and stats up. It's just a small production issue, but don't worry, guys. Don't worry. Calm down. It will be there in time. So it's all good. It's all good. Don't even worry about it. So
currently, they just had to wait for this pat there. Oh, they did grab it. So they actually could have gone a second earlier if the whole raid had moved. They hesitated waiting for the pat a little bit, but that pat would have just kept moving towards them. So they did grab it. It looks like they're having a clean kill of this. You can see all of the actual or kidney shots going out on the plague ghouls. That's basically just a stun to make sure that the tanks don't die. The ghouls can hit kind of hard, and usually your tanks will actually disarm them. But that's just an unlucky pat. It doesn't really change much. A lot of guilds, there's nothing you can do to stop that, and if it's there, it's just actually faster to opt to kill it than to actually wait. And then moving into my Exodus, the first boss of the dungeon, or the last boss of any wing, this is something that every speedrun guild will, again, like was mentioned in the pre-raid video, try to kill before the web wrap. And if you have enough DPS, you don't have to use your recklessness on your warriors, but a lot of guilds will have to use their recklessness on their warriors just to ensure that they don't, or that they do kill this boss before the web wrap goes out 30 seconds into the fight.
I was going to say, how long do they have? So 30 seconds. I mean, what happens if they don't hit the mark there?
If they don't hit the mark, the boss will stun everyone for 10 seconds, be enraged, and try to kill the tank. So there's basically almost nothing you can do. Rogues can vanish it. You can do a couple other tricks to not be hit. It's actually going to go out in 1 second. They might not make it. They did not make it, but at least the dots killed them. They are going to lose 10 seconds here. That was very, very close. You can see that the tank up in the top right-hand corner on his buffs, he did use Life-Giving Gem and Last Stand just to make sure he lived through that, because the boss is enraged at 30%. And if you're not basically full consumed, then you can absolutely die there pretty easily.
Yeah, that was just unlucky, man. Like at least they got the boss down. Like at least they weren't stunned and also just getting hammered by the boss. So the boss did go down there, luckily.
Yeah.
So we're about 11 minutes in, I think, officially. We're waiting on the timer, but yeah, we're about 11 minutes in. I believe it started at 9:34 CET. So,
which means they are, I would say, a few minutes behind at this pace. Of a pace that they would want to be at, but they are moving pretty quickly. Here, this gargoyle should basically, if you can, always pull it with the next group, because that gargoyle is the only one in the dungeon that does not actually do the AoE damage dealing effect, the poison effect that just stacks. It just, I don't know why it doesn't, but that one can always be pulled with these groups that they're fighting now, because it is actually the least scary mob in the entire dungeon.
Nice.
And then these gargoyles are the ones that will have the stacking poison effect, which will just be doing more and more damage, and another gargoyle should pad up to them. So here you just want to kill them as fast as you can so you get as few stacks as possible. You can see they're at 3 stacks right now. And then guilds can choose to continue moving on, or to pull this mob and wait and eat and wait for the stacks to drop. Some guilds early on were using diamond flash sets here so they can keep moving. They are going to keep moving. They have 4 stacks here. I would expect them to stop after this pull, because they did mention that they were going to be going a little bit safer this run. So we will see. They're at 7 stacks, which is quite a bit of damage. So it looks like they're going to eat. Yes, they are going to eat here. Taiba, who is the main tank and has an incredible amount of health, actually doesn't really need to eat, but everyone else will be eating. It's an easy place also to refresh your food buff, which is only 10 minutes long. These stronger food buffs, you can use a weaker food buff from Argent Dawn that is instant, but the stronger food buffs do last not nearly as long as any of the other buffs, and they drop off quite often. So that is one of the nice places to get that back up.
So which buff would they be looking to get from the food?
It depends on their classes, but usually every melee is going for the strength buff with the Smoke Desert Dumpling, which is 20 strength. And then there are intellect buffs for all of the healers and casters that they can get at. Right. And this little bit of strength is a good DPS increase, and it is nice to have up. It, like, pretty much at this level, every single person is trying to use as many buffs as possible, and you're almost pushing the buff cap. You can see that on the left side of the screen, his buff cap tracker has 25 buffs right now out of 32. He actually could push it a little higher, but as the main tank, he is opting to be safe to make sure that he doesn't accidentally push off some of his big world buffs. And here they might actually kill Noct before a blink, which is kind of the goal for most guilds, which means they might have actually used Recklessness. We will dive through the logs later, but up on top you can see the DPS meters. Multiple people at 2.2k DPS, so many people, 8 people above 2000 DPS there on that fight. There is a blink that can happen there which drops all aggro, and it can be really intimidating and really scary, honestly, because then anyone random can get hit from the boss if the tank doesn't instantly get dispelled from the slow that he also puts out, and it also is a bit of a time cost. So they may have used their Recklessness there, because it is a 30-minute cooldown, and you want to use one early, either on Myexna or there, and then you can use it again later, either on, it depends, but usually on Saf or KT.
Right. So we're seeing a healer point of view, right? This is the Paladin healer.
Yes.
And I couldn't imagine anything more stressful. Healing a speedrun, my goodness. Yeah, so people asking about the timer. The timer is coming. We're about, we started at 9:34. It's now 9:49. So we're about 15 minutes in at this point. And we are on what boss are we at this point? How many bosses are we down? We're on Hygen now, right?
Yeah, we're on Hygen the Unclean. So we've gone through the Spider Wing, and we're now into Plague. So this is second boss into Plague. So they're one wing down, almost two, and basically they should just burn Hygen before they ever have to do the dance. We could see their DPS on the last few bosses was good enough to deal with everything. You can also see the tank moving away from the boss. Hygen is very unique in the sense that he does not move with the tank very well. So the uptime of the tank actually can be quite frightening for threat. It's a lot nicer for Alliance, but the tank has to move all the time, and all of the melee are continuing to DPS. But Alliance have Blessing of Salvation, which means they do a lot less threat. Horde have to watch out here, and even Alliance pumpers usually have to watch out here to be afraid of actually pulling aggro as the tank is trying to move the boss into the right position.
Yeah, thanks. So how I was just looking at the meters there. How come the mage was pumping so hard? Like what was the what was different with Hygen that he was able to just like absolutely blast the DPS?
That's actually something we'll probably see here as well. Mages have a mechanic in all of World of Warcraft, but in Classic called Ignite, which as all of the mages crit, there is more damage going out through the entire raid for everyone. A stacking debuff of damage or stacking damage going out for everyone. And as a huge Ignite comes up, which we'll probably see, as you can see here, there's guilds using Arcanite Dragonlings, those little pets that just went out there. Arcanite Dragonlings will put a debuff on this boss so that more fire damage will be taken from the boss. This is a huge boss for mages to try to get a very large Ignite rolling early, and then all of the other mages will then just keep using Scorch so that it just keeps the Ignite up, because every time you crit, it refreshes the Ignite proc. One other thing to note here is something we'll probably see from almost every guild is there are two healers logged out. I think they are both priests, and they will log out here so that they don't get the healing debuff on the boss, which makes it so that you can only cast one heal every 1 minute. And so the healers will log out so that they can instantly move on and continue DPSing the raid and moving through trash while they are actually done with the fight, or yeah, right after the fight.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that's just a strat that they're gonna, like, everyone kind of uses going into this, I suppose. But yeah, I'm so intrigued by all of this, honestly. Like, it's just so, you know, coming from like more of a retail side, I suppose, it's like, this is just nuts. It's so cool. Like, it genuinely is. I really like this. So I guess one thing I was kind of curious about, right? So obviously, you know, Naxx speedrunning's probably been a thing for a very long time, obviously on private servers and things like that. I mean, the world record right now, as you know, as we were talking about before, was like, it's 51 minutes, right? Was it ever any shorter on, you know, on private servers or anything like
Private
that?
Private servers world record was actually from Salad Bakers, who are number 2 right now by 8 seconds. It was from Salad Bakers, and I think it was 1 hour and 8 minutes. But the biggest difference, there's 2 things actually in those world records. Salad Bakers, or on private servers, you could do skips. So you didn't have the requirements like Warcraft logs requires a certain amount of, mainly the big things are ghouls, as well as in Military Wing here, you would see people skipping basically this entire top level with invisibility potions. So you can't do that anymore. And then the second thing on the logs from private servers were that the timer didn't start until you actually engaged the first boss. So they would go through to Patchwork Wing, and I don't believe it was until maybe 18 minutes in where they engaged Patchwork, where they actually started the first timer. So that is a big difference that we're seeing from live to now. But even then, our times are significantly shorter than they were then. So it just goes to show how much innovation has happened, which is mostly, a lot of the innovation is bring a lot more warriors than you did. That is pretty much the go-to standard in World of Warcraft Classic. Just how many warriors can you bring?
I think one thing I guess is kind of interesting, there's something that's going to be coming up relatively soon, I would imagine, probably before pre-patch, is the 113.7, the new patch with the difference in it's not leeway, is it? It's what's the word I'm looking for? Batching. Thank you. Yeah, the removal of batching. Yeah, will that make any difference at all in any of this, or
that
how do you feel about it?
It actually buffs warriors. So that is the nice thing. Warriors will now get rage instantly from attacks, also from their executes. Executes are basically useless to use on trash, which is obviously their highest damage dealing ability below 20%. I don't know how much they will use execute on trash, probably never, but it actually does buff warriors. The one thing it actually hurts though mainly is the Faralina pull, which we didn't see here, but it basically takes away the margin of error from 0.4 seconds to 0.01 seconds. So the margin of error, or human error, is going to be a lot sketchier to do the Faralina pull with the reduction of batching, but it should see us actually increase the time in speedruns when it comes out.
Do you think it's a good change?
I think it's a good change. Warriors will be happy in speedruns. Most classes are happy in PvP as well, maybe except for rogues, because you can't vanish things the same way anymore. You can, it's just buggy, but it will be a lot more sketchy. So I think it's a good change overall for speedruns.
I guess, yeah, because as you said, people are on the PTR kind of testing this stuff out as well, right? Because they use it as like another reset, I guess, as such. So I guess they probably would have already had some experience doing the speedruns with the batching change.
Yeah, I think every guild in the top 50 now is, or has at least run a few PTR runs. The guilds in the top 10 usually will run, it's kind of a running joke, with salad bakers especially, where they will have the raid day and it'll just say soon TM, and you will just basically wait for hours. There we go, with the timers now up on the screen.
Beautiful.
So we can see that they are 20 minutes into the raid, 21 minutes into the raid, and they are into their third wing, which is they're moving at a very solid pace here. So it is nice to see. They're moving at a very solid pace. That my Exna was 42 seconds, which we would have liked to die a little faster. That did cost them a little bit of time. But outside of that, they are moving at a very strong pace.
Yeah, all the stuff's coming up now. Class distribution. And then there'll probably be some more little bits and pieces we've seen before will be popping up for you guys to see. A little bit more information about the raid as we go through it, of course.
This is going to be very interesting. This is the Stables pull. And it's rare to actually see the POV of the Stables pull, which is great. So this Paladin is going to group up all of the mobs from the Stables, and everyone else is going to be LOS. He actually should have probably started the pull a little earlier to be perfect on timing, but it's fine. And he actually bubbled slightly early as well. We'll see how this goes out for them. And everyone else in the entire raid will use a lip here. They all will lip here so that no one can take damage and die. And they're going to use full sappers from everyone, and there it is.
Wow.
Oh, one death, unfortunate, but really, really clean overall. This is one of the scarier pulls in here, and we've seen a lot of guilds die and wipe here. But I'm really glad that we saw Praxis go for this Stables pull there, and it was done really well. One mage dying, and it's not one of your warriors, and it's only one of the mages, so that's a pretty clean overall.
Right, that was wow, that was intense. You really just lose your FPS, don't you? As soon as you use those sappers, the whole game just kind of freezes up. Pretty scary there.
That is definitely a thing. I think that happens to everybody, no matter what your computer is. When you see the 40 sappers go out instantly, pretty much everyone will take damage. And this is one of the scarier fights, like I was mentioning earlier. Instructor Vesuvius, you need to mind control these ads and taunt the boss. And if the taunt drops, or if the mind control breaks, which it can from heartbeats every 1 second, randomly, then people will die. Usually you'll drop Masterwork target dummies, so you'll drop target dummies to make sure that the boss doesn't kill you. But there it was, a clean Vesuvius. This can be a fight that things can go wrong so easily with the split second. So seeing that go well is always good to see. Now we
Yeah,
move
that
on
was awesome.
into the weapons room, and basically the scary thing, or the only thing scary here, are these axes right there, because they do a massive whirlwind that does a ton of damage, but they can also proc something called sweeping strikes, which makes them hit every mob or hit a second mob twice. So if they do sweeping strikes and whirlwind, it can actually get very close to one-shotting some of your melee. So you do want to kill those as fast as you can, and usually split them up to make sure that you don't run into 2 whirlwinds at the same time, because that is just instant death.
Right. The on that sapper pull, I was just kind of curious. What killed that guy? It was just one guy that died. Did he just get aggro or something, or what happened?
Probably used his limited invulnerability potion early, and so he got aggro once it ran out. Because when you have lip up, you have 6 seconds of not even being targetable by most mobs. The mobs won't even attack you. They can't target you. They're just gonna do nothing pretty much. And that's why everyone in the raid will do that, so nobody will take damage. There is some spell damage that can go out, but really it is, if the mobs don't die before your lips are done, you do need your warriors to AoE taunt there. And it probably was from that. He probably used lip earlier than everyone else, and that's how he died. And then here we have what used to be one of these slower fights, but we're gonna see it looks like they're opting for almost every single person to move on to the undead side. Let's see what happens here. Yep, they have one paladin staying on live side, engaging the boss. Everyone else going to undead side, which is a strategy we've seen from some guilds. Mainly Tribe started this strat, or at least was the first one to stream it. And so the mobs that are going to come out from the boss are going to come straight to this paladin here, and then they're going to move straight through the gate. So he's pretty much not gonna heal to grab any aggro, and people on the other side of the gate, these gates aren't actually LOSs, so they don't stop mobs from moving through, as well as the boss. So whenever things come through, you can see that he's being buffed right now by other paladins. He's being buffed with a refresher on his king's buff, which actually is the best thing to grab AoE aggro. So the mobs just run through the gate and the other side gets to kill them. As well, in the background, you can see the hunter marked as the diamond back there has jumped through the gate and is doing the same thing. But for that, because you only run one hunter, you can't really use Blessing of Kings. So most guilds will have a priest in that group that will buff the hunter or the entire group with shadow protection, which will give him enough aggro pretty much to just pull the mobs off of them. So this strategy is a great one. Everyone is on undead side, basically just killing the mobs and pulling more mobs through. It is technically risky, but it saves a lot of time, especially because, as we mentioned earlier, Warcraft Logs does have that trash requirement. And so here you can try to pull as many mobs as possible so that later on you can try to skip more, which they only have Abomination Wing left, which doesn't leave them too many things to skip. But if they go to this wing earlier, ooh, and the gates are open. Interesting. That's actually might have been, did Petri glitch through the gate so the gates open?
Oh no.
I've actually never seen that before. Oh, and there it is. There is a wipe going through. Okay. That is, oh, you hate to see it. Oh my gosh. This is one of the sketchier plays, and things were going really well for them. 27 minutes, 28 minutes into the raid, and the wipe comes through. I'm not sure if that was a little glitchy or if they glitched through the gates, but I've never seen the gates open that early, and that is unfortunate. That is basically a see you next circus, as they say. Luckily, they do have a second run that they can run in this speedrun competition, but that is a huge bummer for them.
27 minutes in, and that just went so south so quickly. As soon as those doors opened, people just started dropping off.
Yeah, pacing-wise, things looked like they were going fine. It looked like there was a lot of trainees there that actually cast an Arcane Explosion. and the arcane explosion just went through and basically destroyed everyone instantly. The paladin did get divine intervention, so he can start resurrecting people, but there's no mass res in World of Warcraft Classic, so he has to just individually res some healers, and they pretty much will then just have to wait. Everyone needs to run back in and try to get back here as fast as possible. But now they don't have world buffs, so their hopes of getting a extremely good time are pretty much shattered here, but at least they're more than halfway through the raid. So now it means that the scarier bosses will be 4 horsemen. 4 horsemen will be really scary for them, and it will be a longer fight, as well as Patchwork is a little bit scarier now that you don't have world buffs. Not even a little bit scarier. Patchwork is a lot scarier now that you don't have world buffs, and you can't opt to go with 2 tanks. They're gonna move to definitely having most likely 4 tanks for that encounter.
Yeah, that was intense. I mean, you said they don't have world buffs. You know, Julius here, he's sitting pretty with his world buffs. He's still got them.
And I just got shout out to Rise and Pappy. So Rise, one of the top world guilds for Alliance, and they number 4, or 5, like we were mentioning earlier. So the Paladin bubble actually makes it so that it appears that there's no one on that side. So it opens the gates and summons the rest of the mobs immediately. So it was a play that they used to summon all of the mobs immediately, but it actually just didn't work out for them. So they went with this riskier play, and just it didn't work. It is sketchy. You don't see it very often. I've actually never seen it in a live speed run, mainly because of it just being probably that risky like it was there.
Do you think they should have gone, played it a bit more safer, considering the pressure of the run?
Personally, I definitely think they should have, considering they have a second run to go with. A lot of times in these runs, you will go for the safe run on the first run, and then go for the riskier plays on the second one, because there's less pressure. You already put up a pretty good time. So personally, I think so, but maybe they wanted to risk it for the biscuit. You got to go for it for the win. They didn't do the Fairlena pull, and they didn't do the and they did do a big trash pull early, but they didn't do the Fairlena pull. So they did need to save some time if they wanted to be in the higher echelon of this competition. So it could have been worth it, but it's definitely one of the riskier plays, it looks like, than doing something, or just playing it safe. I think earlier, obviously, Taiba was talking about that they just wanted to play it safe and go for a clean, fast run. And obviously, they probably made a in-time play, a real-time play, and made the call like, it looks like we can do it. We're pumping. Let's go for it. And it did not pan out for them today.
I would love to see a replay of that, or some sort of clip. I see the chat kind of discussing on what actually happened there. And it's definitely contested on what, if that was intended or not, for sure. Yeah, it just kind of fell apart. I was just kind of watching it. I was like, okay, and then suddenly you were like, the doors are open, and then everyone just died. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, at that point, it's just all of the trainees were alive, and everyone was instantly dead. And the trainees they're non-elite mobs, and they're easy to kill. You can almost solo kill them pretty much within a few seconds, maybe even within like 2 or 3 seconds. But they oh my gosh, they are actually doing this again. It looks like they're still gonna try to pull more mobs through the Gothic side instead of do the standard. Now that you've wiped, you would go towards a general Gothic strategy. But it looks like they're still gonna pull all of the mobs through to undead. This is Praxis. I'm just saying, much respect out to you. This is what?
Oh no!
Incredible.
No.
Round 2. Are they still gonna have their
buffs?
With no world buffs? Are they gonna have their hunter pull some mobs still? It is very scary to do this. Usually, you would expect one people died here pretty much to just go with a normal Gothic. So really,
you would think after that they'll be like, you know what? Let's not get too crazy with this. But
yeah.
I'm very curious to see what happens. I'm going to keep an eye on this one. I think in case the same sort of thing happened. But man, that was really rough. I could imagine the comms, man. I could imagine it. Like as soon as it started falling apart, they were just like, oh no.
Are we gonna do it? It looks like the hunter back there in the purple might. He's just jumping around, but he might end up pulling something, and maybe he's not. He can jump back through the gate and come back and help his team, but it looks like he's just gonna stay there and do nothing. So pretty much this is a strategy that's mostly employed usually just during the speedruns while you're pulling things through, so you have more melee on the undead side just to be able to kill everything, because you have to also deal with the trash that is being pulled in between here and Four Horsemen room. But I guess they're opting for this as just a safer play. They're used to having everyone on undead side, which is awesome. It does make it more interesting than the usual Gothic, that if you're just doing a standard Gothic, you kind of do sit there. Do we have the POV still of Taiba? Because then we can see the undead side, which is really, really nice.
I love seeing Julius just standing there.
Julius is playing a practical joke on everyone.
I love the copy pasta, by the way, chat. Oh my goodness! Like, I've done like retail events and stuff, and everyone's just kind of like, I don't know, not as fun. But you guys are great. I love it so much. It's like
classic. Twitch chat has the best copy pastas.
Oh, it's just out of nowhere. It just comes out of...
I'm sure we'll see a lot of them, especially when we see salad bakers in the competition. There was almost maybe a death that might have been battle res. It looked like someone might have died. And Julius actually goes very low here. He's going to have to heal himself up, which is scary, or get healed because he doesn't want to get any aggro. So if the person dies on that side, that's just intimidating. So let's see how this pans out for them. They are taking a lot of raid damage here, and they don't usually. The healers will be hiding pretty much on the back right side, so that they don't take any damage from the arcane explosions that go out from these trainees. But it looks like some of the healers are kind of just a little, they're just kind of close to people. There is one death from a healer. They're just kind of close to people. This is a scarier Gothic. It would be interesting to see in one of these competitions a second. I'm not going to put it out there.
Oh no. Oh no.
They've recovered so far. Phase 2 will engage in 40 seconds, so they're fine. One thing
two deaths.
Ooh, a second death. A second death. They've got this, guys. We're not worried. This is fine. Oh, and a warrior gets low, another one.
No. You caster cursed it.
I didn't mean to. This is they can still beat it. They can still beat it. They've already lost world buffs, so it's fine losing people. Now they just need to blow up these trainees really fast as they come out and make sure that people are ready to pick up the horses. The horses are kind of the scarier mobs here, as they do a ton of damage, and they have a thunderclap that slows everyone in the raid. Now the boss has spawned. He will run directly through the gate over here to Taiba, who will pick him up, and then they will just kill him. So they did actually accomplish the fight. Gothic himself is one of the least scary fights in the entire raid. He's very, very easy to kill, and he dies pretty much instantly. And then there's the teleport that you would usually see from live to undead side when everyone is on live and undead. But very easy fight, and Gothic is down. Now they're going to resurrect people, and they have dealt with... We're going to be interesting to see how much trash, but it looks like at least a couple trash pulls. That usually, if they had world buffs here, they would use speed items, either swiftness pots or boots. Nifty stopwatch can also be used, which is a trinket that gives you speed, so that they could run forward as far as possible to to Four Horsemen, but it looks like they didn't get that many trash packs. They actually only pulled. Yes, okay, we do have the wipe coming up here, so we're gonna have the POV replay of the wipe from Taiba's POV, and so when the gates open, we should see everything summon in. Coming up. So I guess when the bubble happens, it is going to act like there's no one there on the live side. So he's actually taking quite a bit of damage. That actually might have had to happen because he was taking damage and had aggro, it looked like. So look at all of these trainees coming in. Look at all of those arcane explosions. There's just nothing you can do to that. And every single mob from the rest of the encounter has spawned, and they are all dead. Ooh.
You hate to see it.
You hate to see it.
It's funny, you literally said as they were killing Gothic, you were like, yeah, this is one of the easier fights. They literally wiped like a couple minutes.
It can go wrong. It definitely can go wrong. But it is.
I feel like there's pressure on the guys as well, right? Because of the prize pool and everything like that. Like you mentioned, like this is like one of the first of its kind, right? Where there's actually like, you know, some real implications for winning this. You know, there's actually prize money on the line. You know, beforehand it's just bragging rights, right? You're like, yeah, we're number one in the world, but like this time you can win, you know, up to it's like $4,000 or something. Like it's.
Yeah, this is the biggest speedrun competition, and this is actually the first time in WoW history, WoW Classic history, where we're seeing pretty much every guild run at almost the same time, which is really, really exciting, especially for the bouts tomorrow, where all of these guilds will be running at the exact same time, so we can, other than the world record race or the world first race, it is very rare to see, mainly because it's just hard to get into the raid with your world buffs. And in all honesty, you have to sneak into the raid with your world buffs, and guild run or speed runs can get pushed back because of practice. Like I mentioned earlier on the PTR, now they're going to have to do an old school strategy or the original strategy of Four Horsemen, where they split up all of the bosses instead of trying to cleave two of the bosses down at once.
Right. So why would they change the strat here? Just because of the lack of world buffs, or?
Yeah, without world buffs, you don't have enough damage to cleave down two bosses at one time before you actually get killed. So you can see at his top right-hand corner, he has one stack of this debuff. He just got a second application of the debuff that the Four Horsemen, each individual Four Horsemen gives out this debuff that gets progressively stronger and does more and more damage. So while they're cleaving them down, they would be getting the application from two of the bosses at one time, but they also can be cleaving down two of the bosses at one time. Right. So without roll buffs, you don't have enough DPS to burn down the bosses in time to do that cleave and not take too much damage. Because if they would have taken that fourth stack right there, or even a fifth stack from both of the bosses at once, that would be 10,000 damage. And without roll buffs, unless you're the main tank, you're pretty much dead from that. Even DPS warriors aren't going to have that much HP without world buffs.
Right. I mean, I'm looking at the damage now comparatively to when they had the world buffs. It's such a difference. It really is. It's insane. The
scaling of world buffs, because some things, like some of their fights, they were doing 2 to 3k DPS, and now currently their highest damage dealer is a rogue at 620 DPS.
Yeah. So,
which actual random anecdote, the #1 DPS player in the entire world on this fight is a rogue, which is rare. It almost is always warriors on almost every fight, and it happened yesterday. A rogue yesterday. In Goosey, which we will see in this competition. Riley now has the highest DPS, 1300 DPS on this fight, which is insane.
Why though? What makes Rogue so impressive in this fight?
So the hardest part of this fight is usually that you have to. There's two things. The bosses will do a shield wall, which you can see now. The boss is now taking 90% less damage. And they will do a shield wall. If you're fighting the boss, if you're killing it slowly, it will do the shield wall twice. But if you're killing it quickly, you can actually just get the shield wall out one time, and then it won't be back off of like an internal cooldown to be able to use again. So this slows down DPS. And then the next thing is that you have to, once you get to 4 stacks or 3 stacks, you usually have to stop DPSing that boss and run away and just stand in the safe zone that we saw earlier. So that actually takes away from a lot of the DPS. And then the kind of third thing is the last boss that we'll see alive is Zaliek. And Zaliek has a mechanic where, and we saw 2 people die here. Zaliek has a mechanic where he will do a Holy Wrath, which is basically a chain lightning ability that every chain that it chains to does more damage. So most melee won't be able to actually go into the boss. The golden number is 4 melee in on the boss. Once you get to that 5th stack, you're in one-shot territory, and it can one-shot people. So usually you'll have 4 melee in there, including the tank.
Right.
So
that makes sense. So they're just kind of they're just standing there doing nothing.
Yeah, old school 4 horsemen, you pretty much can't do anything. You have stacks, and you can't send more melee in. You could send in more mages. And the tanks died, which is terrifying because if a Holy Wrath goes out and chains here, it could have spelled doom for the raid. Here's the next Holy Wrath going out. Everyone should be in a decent range so that it won't chain people. But if there was the Holy Wrath, and only one person died there again. So if Zaliek runs close to the raid and Holy Wraths, he will kill basically everyone.
Yeah, because it would chain across all of that big pack of people.
Yeah. It would be terrifying, but they did recover here. That was a little bit sketchy. That was definitely sketchy. But like I mentioned earlier, that this was going to be one of these scarier fights, and now the next scary fight should be 4 horsemen. Patchwork. So their 4 horsemen was a longer kill. We're going to see the time come up soon, but the 4 horsemen kill does take quite a bit longer if you have to do it with no world buffs, especially if you're not cleaving down any of the bosses. And that is just a big time loss that we'll see. They already had their fastest 4 horsemen in this guild was actually 3 minutes long. The fastest, again, like I mentioned in the pre-show in the world, is around 1 minute and 30 seconds. So that was 3 minutes. This one was about 3 minutes longer than what they hoped for.
3 minutes longer. That's
that's the difference in world buffs and not.
Yeah, that is insane, really. I see a few people asking about world buffs. The guild did wipe. As you can see, they've had 51 deaths so far in this run, so they did have a wipe on Gothic.
On Gothic, yes.
Yeah, it was quite the time. But yeah, so they're carrying on, soldiering on without world buffs, seeing how they can do with the rest of this run. But you know, they do get 2 attempts to set a time for the tournament, so they will have another attempt sometime soon. I guess after the reset, I suppose they'll have that.
Yes, I've seen. It's really good though to see that or guilds have 2 attempts, because we've seen every major speedrun guild in the world has gone and had really, really, really bad runs. Like, it's Salad Bakers went on to set the world record last circus, and then their next raid was 3 hours when they were trying to get sub 50. Progress has gone in to AQ trying to get a world record run and decided not to kill one of the Obsidian Eradicators and died in the second trash pull of the entire raid. So every guild has rough raids. Every guild can have rough raids, and it's just something that happens. And being able to go in and go in again, something can go wrong no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing. So something can always go wrong. So having a second run, they will have a chance for redemption. And that is kind of why it probably would have been a better call to go for safety there. But I think he might have been forced into using that bubble, mainly because he had aggro, which probably means Julius may have healed to grab aggro, which was, if so, a mistake.
Right. I see. So, I mean, what was I going to say? I had a big brain question. Trust me, it was ready. I was ready to throw it in there, and you were going to give me the biggest brain answer you've got. So going into Patchwork, obviously, you know, in retail they call it the Patchwork fight, right? It's like the most like standard kind of fight how you set your DPS and things like that. Mechanics for this fight, are they, you know, is there any that you really need to worry about at all?
There is, and there's So there's two. The big thing is threat. The biggest part of it is threat. Patchwork is still, this could be actually intimidating because he took a lot of damage. He gets healed up there. These Retchers do a knock up that does a ton of damage. And if you don't kill them before they do it, it can kill you if you get 2 of them at once. As well as the poison pools you see around, they cut your health in half. So it's not like intimidating. You're not actually taking damage, but when you get out of it, you lose all of that health. So Patchwork has his ability called Hateful Strike, which can hit any of anyone in the top 4 of threat. And this does a crazy amount of damage. And it also goes off of how much HP they have. So some guilds will have a mitigation tank taking all of the Hateful Strikes. And that means basically wearing full mitigation gear, like crazy amounts of agility and dodge, so that they don't actually take any of the damage. They usually will dodge about 70 to 80% of it. And so then nobody else will get hit from it. But without world buffs, you need your 3 to 4 tanks taking these Hateful Strikes. And it could, if you have not enough health, it could almost one-shot you. It could one-shot you if you don't have enough health. And if any warriors accidentally get high enough on the threat table, or any melee get high enough on the threat table, they will absolutely get one-shot. Patchwork is one of the fights where we've seen speedrun guilds have incredible times, be ready to set a world record, and then just get destroyed because a tank goes down and everything falls apart from there. It is really a snowball effect. If a tank goes down, it is hard to recover.
It's yeah. I mean, we saw that obviously before with with Gothic. There, it really just goes down so quickly. But we've got a bit of a dual view now. Check this out.
There we go.
Very nice.
So now we can see the Horde getting into the run, starting their run with a Spider Wing. Starting off a little bit later than Praxis, but they have full world buffs, so they could put up an incredible time. So hopefully we will see this be very clear. You can see that they didn't do a big Spiderwing pull also, so neither of these first 2 guilds have done the big Spiderwing pull. I would highly anticipate us seeing the big pulls from the NA guilds running later today. I would highly anticipate seeing from one of these guilds in particular, seeing some of the huge pulls. But you can see that on the right-hand side, the Rogue actually did use a free action potion here so that he would dodge the knock-up. So if you use a free action potion, you don't get stunned with the web wrap ability here on the ads on Anubricon. And then the knock-up that a noob does, he turns around and targets a mob, and then it's actually it has a travel time. So even if you're right next to whoever's being targeted with it, you can actually just sidestep and not get knocked up. It's something that everyone should do if they're not using a free action potion, or if they're using a free action potion, but a lot of people don't do, pretty much out of laziness. Or slow reaction times. But you do lose out on uptime attacking the boss if you're knocked up into the air.
Right. So I guess I was just looking at the timings, right? So they've now passed the time of the world record. Like the world record is what, like 51 minutes by progress. So yeah, they've just gone past that now. With still what, like 5 bosses left?
They have Patchwork, Gluth, Grobulus, which could be scary as well, Thaddeus, Saffron, and KT. Yeah, 6 bosses left. Yeah, that took me a second.
Keep you on your toes, you see.
Yeah, I did that with my fingers. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, so we do have I see you guys asking for the Horde POV. Look, we have the dual screen thing. We'll go to it as and when, there is some UI elements that are going to be on there as well. Which they're booting up right now from the timings and stuff like that.
And one thing I think you guys all want to see is this Patchwork. Let's see this Patchwork, then we'll show Horde, then we'll show... Let's see this Patchwork. Because this is... Okay, now Patchwork has padded backwards. They should all cross over and go meet up with the boss. Patchwork is one of the bosses that the timing of his patrol actually dictates where you fight the boss. Obviously, this is the biggest meme section of the raid. If someone dies to these slow slimes in 2021, and I've seen it personally, and it happens every now and then just please don't die to these slimes in 2021, guys.
2020 maybe, you know. It's fine.
Yeah. So Patchwork is their next big, actually scary fight. You can see for callouts for chickens, that is for Gnomish Battle Chicken. These are useful because they will actually randomly enrage and give their entire party of whoever used it a buff called Battle Squawk, which gives you 5% haste. And there it is, ooh, really, really low, but they are fine. Okay, you can see actually, so right here, Taibu is actually main tanking the boss. He's actually #1 on threat, or Taiba. He's main tanking the boss. You can actually stand behind the boss on as the main tank here, and the Hateful Strike tanks are the ones that will stand in front of the boss. This is something that's a little different between Horde and Alliance. On Horde, you kind of have to do a triangle position because you don't want the main tank in front of the boss. Mainly what he's doing there is parry hasting the boss, and every time any boss or any mob gets parried, then the time between their next melee attack is shorter, so everyone being in front will parry haste and make the boss just attack faster melee wise. But Horde can't do that because they use chain heal, and if you're too close to the melee, all of the other melee, you're chain healing them and healing them up, which puts them in the fear of getting hit with a Hateful Strike. So you can see all of the melee have very low HP. They all dipped into the pools there just so that they can stay low on HP, and you don't want them to be healed at all here. So currently Patchwork is going pretty smooth for them. He will enrage, and that is where things will be a little bit scarier, but most likely we will see the guilds using shield wall during the enrage. But it only takes one death to really offset this fight and to have a snowball. So clean so far, which is good. And if they get past this, the next two barriers are really Saffron and Kel'Thuzad. Without world buffs can be hard for some guilds, but shouldn't be hard for most guilds. But they definitely can be, because you're taking a lot more damage and the fights are a lot longer.
So how come a lot of people are just kind of sitting kind of low health-wise? Is it like the healers having to focus on the tanks too much, or what's the... Yeah.
You don't actually want to heal up any of the DPS. They actually want to stay at low health, because they if you're higher on the HP, then Patchwork can target you with his Hateful Strike ability.
Right.
So that is why they're healers. This is actually a fight where there's an insane amount of overheal, where you'll individually overheal all of the tanks. And there's the enrage. There's one death. Only one death. One death.
Two.
So that was almost scary. Yeah, the warlocks are just really low. So almost really scary, but they actually pulled it off there. So that was totally fine. Clean Patchwork, really impressive there from Praxis, going in with no world buffs to pump this boss down.
Nice. Yeah, that was nice. It was a good kill. But yeah, I'm so curious about that. It was like how low people were at some points. I was like, holy moly, that was a bit rough. But yeah, no, they got it. And I mean, looking at the DPS again with the Warriors, like 1.1k, like with world buffs, what are we talking there? Like maybe closer to 2?
With world buffs, I would say usually you can do 2 and you can do above 2, but you're worried a little bit about threat. Warriors with world buffs will usually throw on Fetish of the Sand Reaver, the Fetish trinket that reduces their threat also at the start. The reasoning for this is because you just don't want to be up there on the threat meters, which means you don't have another DPS trinket, which could be huge there. You're usually between 1.6 to 2k DPS there on your warrior DPS for Patchwork. It is still one of the longer fights, and here the spewers do a knock-up ability. Usually you want to see them stunned so they don't knock people up, but you can see that they're pulling them into those corners, into the edges of the room, because if they knock you up right where that person just got knocked up, if he doesn't use a limited invulnerability potion, luckily it was a druid, so he could go into cat form. If you don't use a lip, you're gonna die, or intercept back in. That is
Simple as
scary. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we can take a look at some of the Horde POVs soon. I do want to see how they're getting on and the differences between the Horde and Alliance there.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I guess speaking of like Horde and Alliance and Paladins and Shamans and whatnot, pre-patch, right? Pre-patch is going to be a really interesting time for people, if the people wanted to do Naxx runs, right? We'll have level 60s, but Horde with Shamans and Paladins on both sides. Like, what is going to happen there? I'm so curious to see the differences, I guess.
I highly think that in pre-patch, I think the speedruns end, I think, when pre-patch comes out. Right? There's 2 people that just died there from pulling aggro. That's another thing you really need to worry about once world buffs have been lost on your main tank. You need to watch out on pulling aggro early. But speedruns kind of end, and I think most guilds opt to gearing out their TBC characters, like their warlocks and their hunters. Currently, you can see that there's 2 warlocks in here, right? Or yeah, 2 warlocks in here and 1 hunter. Most speedruns will run 2 warlocks and 1 hunter. But when the pre-patch happens, even though some classes can even get stronger, like warriors are really, really powerful in the pre-patch, especially with new talents. They also, like, what makes warriors extremely powerful is the bosses are friendly to warriors, and world buffs are just actually insane in Classic. So that will be something we might not see. Like, we could see some faster times in the pre-patch, but I think people opt out of focusing on speedruns and focus more towards the actual gearing of their TBC characters.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, with the changes to talents and spells and classes and everything like that, I wouldn't, you wouldn't put a speedrun from Classic against a speedrun from TBC. But yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see because they are running the Classic era realms as well still. So I'd imagine speedrunning isn't going anywhere from that, because you can clone your character. They've added that option there for when it moves into BC. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see who clones over and stays. I think most guilds are moving forward. But I'm very intrigued actually to see. If anyone in the chat watching, are you going to play Classic Realms or are you moving forward into TBC?
I think if they go fresh, maybe,
Yeah.
Any fresh memes? Dude, I did an interview with Blizzard and people like that. It was like #1 question that people wanted me to ask. I ended up, I asked them and they didn't really give an answer. It was sad.
So, guys, it looks like the Horde POV has already seen a wipe as well.
And they ended.
Big Sag has already seen a wipe as well. This is just the big risk of speedruns, is if something goes wrong, the time is just fully lost. The power of world buffs in Classic, and I think that's also what makes World of Warcraft Classic unique. A lot of people hate on world buffs or don't like world buffs so much, but it really adds this risk-reward factor of how risky can you go and how much DPS, how risky can you go with your plays. But if you lose world buffs, it's over. And you pretty much just have to see you next circus. You can get another run in that circus most likely, but it is something that we might actually be missing a little bit in speedruns in TBC.
That's true, actually, yeah, because obviously world buffs will stop working around 63, I think they said it would be. So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting change of dynamic, I suppose. But I'll be curious to see some TBC speedruns, though. I guess like Karazhan and things like that would be pretty interesting to see.
Yeah.
Sure. Is that a thing in private servers at all, or is it? I guess speedruns are always a thing.
I'm not sure. Currently, there's one guild on Endless that is clearing Sunwell Plateau, and one guild that's one boss away. So I don't think there's full speedruns yet, but we can definitely expect it. The private servers are overtuned, very specifically overtuned, so the bosses have a lot more HP. They hit harder, not twice as hard, but they hit harder, and they have a lot more HP, so the fights are longer. But we will most likely, or we will guaranteed, we will see speedruns become a thing in TBC.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. It's going to be huge. Like Burning Crusade is going to be absolutely massive. I think it'd be bigger than Classic, honestly.
Yeah, I think so too. Rise will be, I'm seeing in the chat the question, Rise will be running later today, and we will have the Horde replay for you guys soon of the wipe that happened. Here we go.
Here it is.
So it was the Faralina pull. This is it. The scariest pull in the raid. Oh, somebody pulled aggro with the res. It looked like somebody either used the res or used potentially any buff at all. And they were too close and they pulled everything. That is a big stop, dude. That's over. Oh, that is unfortunate. So the Faralina pull is early on in the raid, and this is the scariest pull in the raid, really. And pretty much there's nothing. If you go down there, it's over, right? Praxis had their wipe, of course, but it was significantly later than everything else. So Praxis still can put up actually a good time, right? They actually could put up like a pretty nice time. They could put up an hour and 20 minutes, which is one of the top times in the world, even with their wipe. But wiping early, it's fully over. If you wipe at all in any of the world record attempts, obviously it's just game over. But we have actually seen in some of the earlier world records, things like salad bakers getting a world record last circus where they actually struggled on Grobulus and a lot of people died there, but they still were able to put up the time to put up the world record. So like some runs aren't that clean and can still put up a world record, but if there's a full wipe, there's pretty much no recovery from that to put up an insane time. But we're seeing how Praxis is dealing with that. They're still trying to put up as good of a time as possible.
Yeah, I mean, they're still going. Like, at least they didn't just like fold it after they wiped, But they still, they're still going okay, as you mentioned. But yeah, they do get that second attempt, obviously, after the next reset. So yeah, where are we at now? We're at Thaddeus,
We're
right?
Here on Thaddeus,
Esquire's favorite boss.
Now we get to see if anyone decides to drop Ignite with petrification flasks at all, lip at all, taunt rotations. We're going to basically want to watch out for the mages here and the threat meter. The Ignite can be really scary on this boss, as a big Ignite can basically just mean infinite threat. You used to be able to just Flask of Petrification and just sit in your Petri Flask and not worry about anything, but they did patch that a bit.
Right. So the flask, right? So do you want to explain kind of like what the deal is with the petrification flask? Because as you mentioned in the rules, it was 5, right? You can use it.
Yes. So Flask of Petrification, pretty much what it does is it makes you immune to damage for 2 minutes. Technically, you're out of combat when you use it, and also mobs still are aggroed onto you unless anyone comes in range of them being able to aggro off. So we first saw really big Petri pulls. Well, first it was really utilized in speedruns in BWL, actually. So in Blackwing Lair, it was used right before Chromagus's room, where the mobs before Chromagus's room would be pulled off onto the side, so everyone in the raid could run through and then fight the boss. And then those mobs would then be brought into Nefarian encounter, because the Nefarian phase 1 encounter is kind of like Gluth, like we saw, oh my gosh, kind of like Gothic,
Yep.
That the phase 1 is there's not much to deal with if you have world buffs. You're kind of sitting there. So then you would pull extra mobs into that so you could just save time. And then in AQ, they ran in and they were doing that to pull together giant groups of mobs. They would have rogues do it in AQ to pull together giant groups of mobs and just be Petri Flasked and just sit there, and then everyone would run up and use those sapper charges like we saw earlier. So that is the big play, and that is actually what we saw being used in that Horde run when that Horde wipe happened. And the reason why the wipe happened is because if anyone does anything that can grab aggro, those mobs will just come back off of them right away.
isn't there supposed to be like a big animation with Saf coming up? Did they just did they skip it? How does that? What happens there?
So Saf, if you're not in the room when the encounter starts, the animation is actually in. You don't see it. It's happening for everyone that joined the room when the encounter started, but the meta rotation for going through Naxxramas right now is usually going from Thaddeus into Saffron. And if you have the Thaddeus debuff, you can't all run into the room because as the debuff goes away, if you're near anyone of the opposite charge, you'll kill them. Not even as it goes away. If you're near anyone of the opposite charge, you'll kill them. And then as the debuff goes away, if you're near anyone, you all take damage. So around 30 seconds is how long for Saf's opening RP to happen, where he does this spinning and assembling of the actual dragon himself. So when he does that, oh, we might see someone die here. Oh, he makes it. He makes it. Okay.
I think there's one guy dead.
There is one guy dead, but someone almost died to the frost boss. He just moves slow. You do want to start moving, either if there's no frost, like ice blocks near you, you want to start moving around 3 or 4 ice blocks, because the boss will do 5 ice blocks during the air phase. And sometimes it will all be on the far side away from you, and you really need to run all the way over there.
Right. So this is I mean, did you say this was one of your favorite fights, wasn't it, in the raid? Just because you're a rogue, though, right?
Yeah, just because I'm a rogue. It's one of the fights where rogues have a little cheeky bit of they can bait out different encounters. While the boss is in the air, you can hit them with special abilities. So anything that's like a yellow damage dealing ability, not your normal melee attacks, you can hit them. So rogues, you get recurring energy, so you can keep hitting them. Obviously, casters can keep hitting the boss, but rogues can stay in and DPS the boss while he's up in the air during the air phase. Warriors, you don't get more rage while he's in the air, so you can dump your rage, but that's all you can really do. And then also, if you get stuck out from an ice block because of blizzard, or you're out of position or something, when the frost bomb goes out, you can actually click vanish at the exact same time as it hits, and you won't die. It'll just batch together, and you'll be immune to it.
Batching, right? So would that be a change that happens in 13.7?
It is doable. It is doable on the PTR, but it is a lot harder. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? The clever use of game mechanics, or clever use of batching, I suppose. The artificial batching that they added because they wanted to make it more classic-y, I guess. Yeah, so we've got a couple people going down at this point. Actually, we're around about 28% on the boss.
Yeah, they really want to bring the boss down to 10% before the next air phase, which is 40 seconds from now, which is good because then there's no more air phases. I think they should be able to do it. They're actually definitely going to be able to do it. Once the boss goes below 20%, it's a lot easier because you have your executes going out, but a lot of people are taking damage. It looks... I actually can't tell from raid-wide mana how mana is, but Alliance have the advantage here that Paladins are a lot better with mana management than Shamans, but still, some people are dying. There is this Saf aura, the tick that goes out, that does between 600 and 300 and 150 damage every 2 seconds, it ranges depending on your frost resistance gear, which is... As they've lost world buffs, they should be running as much frost resistance as possible in this raid. But we are seeing a lot of people die here. This is something we see in actual full speed runs. Now that they've wiped, it's kind of no longer going for that like insane time. But if people die on this boss on an insane time, like a world record run, it really sucks because you're actually not out of combat and you can't resurrect them for quite a while. So you actually lose out on quite a bit of time. That actually could have cost... That's one of the things that could have cost Salad Bakers the current world record. And I think Progress might have lost someone on that fight as well. I'd have to pull it back up to recall.
Yeah, you'd have to dig into the logs or whatever.
But they were able to do it. They did lose quite a few people, though. So that was a really sketchy Saffron. So it is really... intimidating to lose your world buffs to fight this boss. It is no longer nearly as clean, and it's something that they're at a pretty good pace though. 1 hour and 13 minutes. this is most guilds in the world would be loving to be on Kel'Thuzad at 1 hour and 13 minutes. This is still a really good pace. It's just unfortunate. They're going to have a longer Kel'Thuzad because they've lost world buffs. They have to resurrect everyone. So it's pretty much now just waiting here, getting your food buff again, and it all being slow. But they were moving at an incredible pace. And I think that's something that we're really excited about. It's unfortunate to see in the first round today, some of the guilds obviously wipe, but it is really entertaining to see. And later, it's going to be really interesting to see like other guilds like Rise come in and see what time they can put up after both of their runs this week have been incredible. They've already had 2 guild clears that were insane times, even their raid 2 time. So they've already been practiced this week and already put up a top 5 in the world time. So this could be an incredible time when we see the NA run a little bit later.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that for sure, right? Because it'll probably be one of the first runs we see, probably with world buffs throughout the whole thing. I mean, it was very unfortunate that they did wipe, obviously. But, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is, unfortunately. But, you know, we're going to see KT going in now. And as he said, like, the time now, the 1 hour 15, even if they were to kill it within the next, you know, let's say 5 minutes, right? That still puts them in, like, at least the top, you know, 100 in the world, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. I think, yeah, that definitely puts him in the top 100 in the world. And Kel'Thuzad, though, is another interesting encounter where it's another time gate where you can be kind of tricked on how long the encounter is. Phase 1 is going to take forever, like 6 minutes. And then phase 2, usually you'd want to kill the boss under 2 minutes at that time. Kel'Thuzad is like a 7-minute plus encounter total. It is a long encounter, and it will like, we'll see. Phase 1 of Kel'Thuzad is another one of those ones where nothing too much is going on. One more interesting thing to watch, though, that we can see is, will anyone die to a Shadow Fisher? This is one of my favorite things to watch in any sort of speed run is will anyone die to a Shadow Fisher, which is his mechanic where he puts a red circle on the ground and you have like 3 or 4 seconds to move out of it, but if you don't, you instantly die. And in speed runs, in world record runs, we almost always see someone die to the Shadow Fisher. So now we're gonna see with a much longer fight if anyone decides not to move out of that.
Why would they not move out of it? Just because they want to like push DPS even more, or?
No, people just kind of zone out and forget to move out of it, I would say. But people, we can I would predict that people are definitely this is a harder fight to have everyone live, even with full world buffs, because of the mind controls and things get a little hectic later on. The MC targets can one-shot people pretty much now. And if they don't get CC'd early enough, like with Sheeps, with Slumber Sand, with Magic Dust, whatever you're doing to deal with them. And then when the ads come out, the ads will be out for a lot longer, the ad phase. Then with world buffs, you can kind of almost burn Kel'Thuzad before you even really have to deal with much. You get your shackles, and then the other ones that are just running around can pretty much, the boss will be dead before you really have to deal with them.
Nice. I mean, this first phase is so sleeper. Like it is a little bit, you know, a little bit dull. The NPCs coming out just slowly and that, but you know, it's just one of those. I think there's actually I want to say there was an achievement in Wrath that they added that you like shouldn't leave the circle or something.
Yeah, you can leave the circle. One thing, I guess they do have someone with Thunder Fury on. You can see that little lightning running around. They have multiple people with Thunder Fury. So Thunder Fury is one of those, the jump mechanic of Thunder Fury where it procs and hits a lot of other mobs. If they're outside of the circle, like right where the mob is right now, it could chain with that little skeleton coming in. So that's actually something that most guilds will actually opt to remove Thunder Furies from any of their tanks or anyone that has Thunder Fury on phase 1, because if it chains, it will basically pull an entire room, and then it's not a death sentence by any means. This encounter, phase 1, is very easy. But without world buffs, you could lose some people, and it's just, it also could be used to pad the meters because, I mean, what else are you doing with damage-wise right now? So you could, if you're in a parse run, it doesn't actually parse the boss. It doesn't count on Warcraft logs towards the boss, but for your overall damage, this part of the encounter does count for encounters in trash and Warcraft logs.
Right.
So it could be used, but it's interesting to see. But yeah, you can actually run pretty far outside of the circle without aggroing anything else. In some runs, you'll actually see people charge the abominations outside of the circle. A lot of times you'll see these stuns, as we're seeing here up top. He's got big debuffs, the either weak aura or add-on that is showing us that there's the stuns on the mobs. And a lot of times you'll stun these mobs because they can hit hard. If someone loses aggro, then they can just one-shot a melee. Like, it literally turn around and just instantly someone's dead. You hate to see that happen, and it almost never happens in these top tier runs.
I guess from like a speedrun point of view, like what is this the fastest way to do it? Like what is, I guess from like a dum-dum kind of look at it, right? So what's the disadvantages of just pulling the big packs?
They just respawn. It's a static timer. There's nothing you can do here except for just kill the mobs that come into you.
Right.
So if you were to pull the whole rooms, it wouldn't matter because they would just respawn. They're actually mobs like all of the mobs in those rooms are mobs you never have to deal with. It's only the mobs that start walking towards you.
They're just
the other ones will. Yeah, exactly. Or if you decide to run towards them or something, or if someone is actually not inside of the room when the encounter starts, they'll get teleported into one of those rooms, and you'll just have to deal with that as well. But that's a rarity. It's happened sometimes. Believe a couple of the speedrun guilds, a couple of world records have seen it happen throughout Naxxramas, but it doesn't happen very often. So this phase,
I was going to say, it's about 3 minutes, isn't it?
Oh no, this phase is it's the longest phase in history.
I was just looking at the time there. I've got about 30 seconds left on it, I think.
They have 30 seconds left, which is good. So now they're going to fight Kel'Thuzad. You'll usually see, so Kel'Thuzad, you're going to see 4 melee stacks on all 4 like sides of him. Like kind of like a cross or a T, east, west, north, south, whatever. It'll be interesting to see if the main tank actually turns the boss around when he gets him into position. There's no reason to do that. You can get frost blasted, and there's no reason to do it. But let's see what he does. Usually they'll pull Kel'Thuzad into position in the middle of the room here. Just it gives more people room to move around. And look, there we go. And then you want to see all of your melee are trying to melee from max melee range. Because if you're in too close to the boss and he decides to frost blast you, he could chain that frost blast and it would hit so many other people. So that's why there's 4 different melee stacks grouped up, because if the frost blast that he does actually does chain to people that are closer to you, and it does do a percentage of your health every second. There was the first Shadow Fisher in the back there that we see melee or caster getting out of. So there's the first MC going out. This is the most intimidating part of the fight, most likely, is how fast can an off tank pick it up, and then how fast can everything be CC'd. Because if you actually melee the boss right after, like with a big crit right after the MCs go out, because there's pretty much a threat drop, then you could just take a melee from him and die. But that was dealt with really easily. So far, so clean.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And that is the first Shadow Fisher on the melee. The Frost Blast is actually coming off of cooldown here, so that melee has to get back into position really. Oh, and there it goes. They get a lucky Frost Blast on a caster. The person tanking the boss could have actually chained that Frost Blast, and a Hunter just pulled aggro. Okay. Luckily, Frost Blast is still on CD. They actually could just reposition if they notice it, right? They could just reposition into the middle really fast. They have 7 seconds. Frost Blast doesn't go off directly off of the cooldown, but it does come off of CD. There's 1 death here, 2 deaths here, so nope, 1 death here so far. So now Frost Blast is off of CD. So this is the scarier type, or the scarier parts of it. But luckily, the Frost Blast has been going out on healers more so than on anyone else. So they've kind of had actually pretty good RNG here on the boss.
It's still looking a little bit rough though. There's three dead. They've just passed their record victory that they've had before on this fight. Just come up, but obviously they probably had world buffs when they got that originally. But yeah, we've got 3 down at this point. Do you think? You think it's gonna be all right?
I think currently they're fine. Currently they're definitely fine. Ideally, this group that we're watching right now kind of steps to the left, and then the group next to them steps to the right a bit, so that everyone doesn't chain a Frost Blast, but we're going to see how that's going to go. It is currently on cooldown, so it's not too intimidating. During that last AoE Frostbolt, a couple more people did die. 1, 2, 3. A lot of people are dead now. And here comes the next Frost Blast. Basically, now you're in burn phase, right? Basically, use everything, kill the boss. Who cares about the ads? Just kill the boss. Try not to chain people. And this is where probably the most scary part of the encounter is. There's an MC late and that AoE Frostbolt went out. So now it's in triage form. There's the Shadow Fisher. Nobody was in it. They all move out. A lot of people some more people are probably going to die here, but it looks like they're going to kill it. I'm not going to say anything too early, but let's see.
Yeah, they had to curse it, but it's so close.
They had really, really, really lucky Frost Blasts, though. Like, all of the Frost Blasts were not in melee. Let's see how this goes, boys. This is a clincher.
It's going to be close. I mean, what is it, 3 or 5%? Or was it 3? It's not, no.
4%.
Oh my goodness, no. It could still happen, maybe? Oh no, you hate to see it.
You hate to see it. It's an unfortunate. This boss can be a struggle for a lot of guilds without world buffs. That was so close. They had good RNG with the Frost Blast, but really bad RNG at the end with the mind controls. So it looks like they're gonna have to get everyone back in here. Some guilds, even in the top guilds, will come back in and rebuff. From personal experience, one of my guilds, not my main guild, but one of my guilds yesterday was struggling on Kel'Thuzad for quite a while. So it's rare to see when you go from just one-shotting it, like the fastest kill, right? Like, and just destroying it to just seeing it fall apart.
It's funny because it, you know, as I said, like with when I do the retail ones, everyone's like, you know, laughing at them for dying and stuff like that. But I mean, there's probably people in the chat right now who raid Nax and they're watching this and they're going, "Oh, you're so rubbish." But like at the end of the day, they're probably doing like 3-hour runs with their guilds. Like this is still the top echelon of players, right? These are still like very good players who are doing a very good run, even without world buffs. Yeah.
This is still overall timing wise, 1 hour and 27 minutes is still like a really, really solid run overall. And that would have been up a good time. 1 hour and 27 minutes would have been, for all intents and purposes, a very solid speedrun time for most servers even. But unfortunately, the wipe did happen there. So we're going to go again and see. The only thing that really, the most unfortunate part of a wipe on Kel'Thuzad is that you got to do phase 1 again. It is.
You got to sit through that hideous phase.
Yeah. You pretty much.
How long is that phase, like, specifically? Is it like 4 minutes or something?
Six minutes? Maybe 5 if I'm blanking, but I believe it's 6.
That's so rough.
It is the longest. It takes a long time. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Okay, it's 5 minutes. It just feels. You almost want to like zone out. It's unfortunate. Like the only thing you can really do is shoot some skeletons and stun the abominations so that people don't die. Thank you, Colin, by the way. Appreciate it, dog.
I think once it gets going, it's okay. But yeah, that first phase is real I guess I bet some people just pull more just to make it more entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah, you like right? Might as well.
As long as you don't
It's-
die.
I guess they really want to save as much or mana as they can early on. One thing they could potentially do is go in and basically go in and it looks like Scripted rebuffed and came back in. Correct. Scripted has rebuffed and they're back in. So Scripted, after their wipe, are gonna come in and pump again. You can see that they got their Darkmoon Fair again, which means they probably pushed off Darkmoon Fair because in the game there's a 4-hour internal cooldown on Darkmoon Fair to be able to get it again. This means you have to have 4 hours of in-game playtime or 8 hours logged out in a major city. But if you push off or if you hit the debuff limit, it actually is a hidden debuff and you can push it off by going into Gurubashi Arena and having just 4 or 5 warlocks dot you up and then just push off that cooldown.
That's insane.
Probably what they did to be able to get back in there.
So how does the timing work then with this?
Technically, for logs, it's a rebuff, but the timer would be from when they first entered. So for their speed time, it's not looking good, but they can get a good parse, and they can also get good practice. Now we can actually see some good practice, see what their strategies will be for their second bout in the tournament. But they're pretty much out especially if they're going up against Senseless, which currently has the world's fastest horde raid. So they're pretty much out of the record time for this first run.
Right. But they're still doing it anyway, because why not?
Oh, yes. And they're at 20 minutes on Warchief's Blessing, 17 minutes on Songflower. Maybe this rogue might have actually vanished and lived on this was the rogue that vanished and lived on their wipe. So he has full buffs and didn't go back and rebuff, and maybe I think the other people have gone back to rebuff, but you can see on the DPS meters this rogue is so far ahead of everyone else.
Of course he is.
So he's the one that lived, the boy who lived,
the boy that lived.
Which always feels bad. You always feel bad as the rogue who lived if that happens in your raid, but you're also like, well, at least I have buffs.
Rogues and paladins, same attitude.
Yeah. Yeah, you just need to worry about like pulling aggro now, which as they move on towards Vesuvius could be a strong thing. Okay, I thought they pulled both of the actual packs, but they just get the pat here and the next pull. This can be a little bit intimidating as they're getting feared and they don't seem to have full tremors out and no Will of the Forsaken ready. So they did pull the next pack, but in any of the top guilds, this shouldn't be. Oh, and they got the furthest pack. All right. So this is a juicy pull for not having full world buffs. The only thing you really want to worry about is not running in as those spinning mobs right there, those Death Knight captains. So he runs right through he gets feared into it. He's gonna die. Oh, he gets saved. Oh, the mob dies. He got hit with the stun, which would have been death if that mob didn't die. He's running around, doesn't know what to attack.
We've got one guy down, don't we? I think.
Yeah, we have 2 down. That was a hectic pull. When things happen like that, it can be just try to save. Like he's probably in just try to save my buffs mentality, which he's probably
so selfish.
Yeah, he's probably walked away from his computer for a second and was like, "I lived, I did it."
Love it. I think we're slowly getting into some KT in a minute. Which I guess they're probably just doing phase 1.
Praxis should be coming up onto Kel'Thuzad again, which we should be able to see in a second. We're just waiting to see when they get into phase 2, guys.
What are you on about? Phase 1 is so good to cast. It's so amazing that it just doesn't stop. The action's just so intense.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. They stunned another one of the abominations. They did it.
Love it. I think it's so interesting to me, like mentioning it again, I suppose, like seeing all these guys UI, like they all use, for the most part, a lot of these guys use the standard classic UI, which is so different to retail where like all the top raiders and stuff like that over there all use Elf UI. They all use all these crazy, like all of their like UIs are disgusting. I'm looking at this UI, it looks lovely. Like I love the look of it, right? But
yeah,
it's strange. I wonder why. Like what's the reason there, I guess?
I think most people, other than like Elf UI, a lot of people tend to use just pretty much just simple weak auras. Like you can see in the middle of his screen, he has a weak aura for his weapon swing timer. He has his combo points there, his energy and energy ticks, which is all very important for rogues, especially for Horde to have that weapon swing timer. Very important for rogues on Horde because you want to use your abilities after a weapon swing, or else if you get a Wind Fury proc, it'll actually reset your weapon swing. So there is like a lot there in the middle hub, right there in the middle, and you can also see his slice and dice is tracked there. But other than that, I guess you don't really need too much.
I guess it's overkill, really, at that point.
Yeah, healers tend to have some crazy UIs, and I've definitely done some like rate my UIs where people have UIs where you can't tell what's going on at all because it's like
the cursed UI, so it looks like everyone's dead all the time.
Yeah, there's too much. All right, it looks like Praxis is about to pull KT. Phase 2 of the encounter is starting now. There's still a Weaver up, and they're having most of their melee and their casters finish that off as multiple Weavers up as the main tank here, Taiba positions the boss. Everyone runs out from that Shadow Fissure. Actually, the very first Shadow Fissure, it's too early to get like a chain of the Frost Blast. You can move into a different position. You don't actually have to move out and have downtime on the boss on the very, very first one, or if Frost Blast is on CD, which is something that a lot of people should be tracking, watching their DBM timer. So there's the first Frost Blast that went out, and now it's 30 seconds for the ability for the second one.
Everyone's just giant turtles. Nice. So it's a little bit... Oh, we have a death. Oh.
There's the first death of the run, or not of the run. we have 120 of those. Just rounding it out to a nice even 120. It happens. Execution of this raid was not ideal, but the speed is still pretty solid. An hour and 36 minutes is still a pretty solid time. That is a super sketchy movement because Frost Blast was off CD. So that could have frost chained. Like, I don't know why it's not being called out in raid comms or by the raid leader or why they aren't paying attention to it, but they could have easily frost chained everybody. Usually if Frost Blast is off cooldown and there's a Shadow Fissure in the raid or in the melee, you just run directly backwards so that you're not chaining anyone. Don't run to the side and keep attacking because you're just gonna chain everyone and more damage is gonna go out to the raid.
Right. Okay, so the Frostblast CD, I guess, is the DBM timer, right? That was just
yes. Yeah. So right now you can see it will come off of cooldown, and then it can happen pretty much whenever. Like there's no real telling when it's happening. So currently things are going pretty well. You can see the ads are coming out. They're pumping the boss actually pretty hard right now, which there is the Shadow Fissure. You can see as, again, two of the melee, three of them decided not to run out. They actually stayed in. So they got lucky that they didn't get Frost Blasted. The blast just hasn't gone out. So there's a little bit of RNG here. You can get unlucky or you can get lucky. Kel'Thuzad definitely has some RNG elements in it. The world record race, or the world record from Progress actually had a crazy RNG. They got no mind controls.
Wow.
Which I've only seen one time in one of my raids. There it is. There's the death. Only one death. Or there's the kill. One death. Might have Menethel, Doomfinger,
nice.
Big Sag. Big Sag. But they did it. Pulled through. Praxis, congratulations.
Yes, congratulations indeed, and welcome back, everyone. That was the first set of runs here for Raid Masters Naxxramas, and I gotta say, it was exciting for sure. But I think these guilds and maybe even our viewers were a little bit caught off guard by how many difficulties these two groups specifically had, guys. Yeah. Sorry. What's your overall take?
It's just so unfortunate. Like their timing was going so well, and they were playing so safe. And their timing was going so well, and then just to go down where they did is just it feels bad. And just because of that bubble, it looked like I'll have to check the logs. It looked like the healer had aggro. Julius had aggro and had to bubble to save himself, but that pretty much just meant death for everybody because no one else was then on live side.
Yeah, it did indeed. Well, yeah,
and when you go down, you're done. Like a whole wipe means the speed run is done.
Yeah, and you kind of saw it deteriorate from there. What about you, Mr. GM? Overall thoughts on our first two runs of the day?
Poor Horde, bless them, and their early wipe. That was very, very unfortunate, really. But yeah, no, I think it was interesting. Like seeing them, like it's just so crazy how quickly it can completely go south, right? Like we saw with Gothic, with the Paladin there, just completely just went to, it went to crud, I guess. But yeah, no, I think. Unfortunate for sure. They definitely would have got a better time if they kept those world buffs and they were able to continue on. Going to be very interesting to see other guilds going through this comparatively, like seeing the difference in strats. I definitely want to see more Horde. Like that's definitely one I want to see more of, just to see the differences with the shamans versus the paladin sort of dynamic there. But yeah, looking forward to it for sure. Right, to see where this event goes.
Certainly. Well, Praxis is done with their run. Scripted is still going to be running, but while they are, let's go ahead and pop over to our leaderboard and see what time Praxis was able to post. Leaderboard should be popping up here in just a minute with their time, and there it is. Praxis, our first guild to finish their Naxxramas run of the Raid Masters Naxxramas event, is going to be posting a time of 1 hour and 39 minutes and 16 seconds. Gentlemen, certainly not the run that they were looking for or working towards, or maybe even both. But it is, hey, at least it's on the board. They were able to finish it. Now comes the planning moving into next week. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a bit of something for you. Excuse me. This event happens to be sponsored by some lovely individuals. This event is brought to you by G-Loot, Warcraft Logs, as well as HyperX, and we've got a few words from our sponsors right now. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Raid Legends Naxxramas, brought to you by G-Loot, Warcraft Logs, and HyperX. My name is Esquire, joined here on the desk by Mr. GM and Sarth. We just finished up our first runs of the day, where Praxis was able to finish their run. Not exactly the run that they were looking for. We still have one more guild currently running right now. Again, they had some issues also, and we'll be sure to talk about those here over the course of today. We've lined up an interview with one of Praxis members. They're going to be hopping into our comms here shortly to give us a bit of insight into what exactly happened. But before we do that, guys, I still have a few things on my mind here. Sarth, Mr. GM, I can't stop thinking about a few certain events that happened during that Praxis run. And man, I got to think about this. That one pull, okay, that one pull in the military wing. I want to talk about maybe your favorite little short moment of that Praxis run. It had to be for me. That 4 horsemen, or rather the military wing, okay, where they pulled the horse cubby, they have the paladin go do that. That's something that a lot of people they never see in their actual runs. If you're not speed running, that's something that you will never incorporate in your runs, and that had to take the moment for me from it. But I'm curious about you guys. Sarth, what did you like from the run?
Well, I think that was the most exciting thing for me as well, because we rarely get to see the polar POV, and that's something that's like honestly one of the best things in the game on it to watch is the polar POV. Like the hunter POV is always a really good one, because hunters, I've said it earlier, like carry speedruns. Hunters can actually pretty much make or break a speedrun, and that's why some of the top guilds have these incredible, like you have one hunter and he's working in tandem with the raid leader to be able to pull at all times. And so for the paladin setting up that pull, it's really fun to be able to watch it. And they actually performed it really well. One person did die, but in the overall scheme of things, that was their first death, and they did it really well. Actually, Or was that after? Yeah, that was their first death.
Yeah, it was.
And then everything fell apart.
Yeah. Poor mages.
Yeah.
What about you, Mr. GM? What stood out from that run? Was there a moment that you were just like, "Oh my god, this is insane, dude"?
I hate to say it, but it was that. It was that. When dropping all the sappers and everything. Oh man, it was such a moment. Like I'd never ever seen that before ever. Like pulling all of those with the bubble there, and then just dropping it like all the sappers. The game just completely folding on itself because of all the graphical effects. It's quite the moment, and losing someone there, yeah, that sucks. But I think in the end it was worth it for the pull. Like it was huge, and a big gamer moment. It was pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the ways that these speedruns have sort of developed, right? I mean that's not something that if you were to think of like let's brute force through this speedrun, let's try to get the best time as possible. Some people might think, well, you just got to go fast. You don't really think about the intricacies and the strategies that could be employed. Like Sar talked about, the hunter pulling, working together with the raid leader, but also the paladin pulls that we saw Praxis pull off in their run. But guys, speaking of Praxis, we have a lovely interview coming in here. We've got Taiba joining us to talk to us about their run. Taiba, hey good evening. Thank you for joining us and well done.
Well, it's lovely to speak to you guys. Thank you very much for doing this. Yeah obviously we're very disappointed, but I'm happy to be here.
Hey, likewise, we're happy to have you as well. So I want to talk about the run. Obviously, wasn't necessarily the run that you guys were hoping to put forth in your first attempt of the tournament, but regardless, it's a run in the books, and we've got some things to talk about. So I want to ask you guys first, what sort of preparation, Taiba, did you and your guild put into this event, specifically this first run?
It's been a bit of an iterative process, I guess, if you can say that. Implementing new strategies and a lot of prep goes into it. Me and my team of officers, I've been a bit busy recently, so my officers have been doing most of the work, so massive shout outs to them. Yeah, it's just coming up with strategies, watching other top teams and seeing, can we do that? Have we got the players able to do that? And we maybe took it a bit one step too far tonight, but that was actually the first time on a live run we tried that strategy at Gothic, for example, which I'm sure you'll go over. But a lot of prep goes into it from me and the guys. And no one's fault there. Strategy is sound. We just need to go again and do it better next time.
Certainly. Well, those efforts in preparation are absolutely commendable. Next question, though, like you mentioned, we absolutely need to know. We want to know. We need to know. Gothic. Okay, that was a big moment in the run. Can you maybe walk us through what happened? What caused the wipe for you guys on Gothic?
So obviously I haven't had the luxury of checking the tapes yet like you guys, but to my understanding, and it was the first time we did it live, we have practiced it. My understanding is it was going all well up until that point. That's why we felt confident doing it. And the idea is that one paladin on the undead side is meant to spam blessings to get on the aggro table of the paladin on the living side, the soul paladin, who's alive on threat on the living side. And at some point, I haven't had the chance to check yet, but the blessings didn't work. The paladin on the undead side didn't get on the aggro table of the mobs on the living side. Julius, who is my paladin on the living side, was about to die. He bubbled, dropping all threat. The living side recorded no one on that side with threat to the mob. And as a failsafe, which I think is programmed into the fight, I assume that when no one is detected on that side, a whole bunch of mobs spawn and it's basically run over at that point. So, yeah, we don't know what happened. I'll have to go away and check, but I suspect there was a gap in the blessings being cast or something like that. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I think that's a fairly accurate description of what happened. So you definitely seem to have at least a good handle on the basic foundation of what went wrong on that Gothic fight.
So as I say, no one's fault.
Off of, right, yeah, I mean, of course, this is a 40-man effort, right? Even more, like you said, in preparation, 120 people can help contribute towards these ultimate speedruns. So it's a team effort all the way around. But I want to talk about this, and you, with your guild, when you have something like that happen, so first speed run of the tournament, okay, you're making good pace, you get to Gothic, and then you have something like that happen where your entire team wipes. Sar talked about it. You lose your world buffs, and these runs are pretty much over and done with. How do you recover as a guild? How do you get everyone back on pace and move forward?
I think most people would struggle, but I've got a fantastic bunch of lads who just, without me saying, I give a few words of encouragement, but everyone just kind of got, right, okay, we have to get through it. There's no point just giving up or tilting, shall we say. You just got to pick yourself up and get through it as best you can. Obviously, we're not concerned about the time we get after that wipe. For a competitive time, it's over. Anyone knows that. I'm sure the chat knew that when it happened. We all knew it. And it's just a case of you know, we've been raiding with each other for over a year now in Classic, and there's no point getting angry at each other. There's no point getting mad or tilted or whatever. You just got to pick yourself up and do it. So, yeah, not because of me. I've just got an excellent bunch of lads who they know what they need to do.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you certainly do have a good group of lads there. So, looking forward, okay, the past is in the past. Let's look forward to the future. Now, you have one more attempt here at Raid Masters Naxxramas. What's going to be the main goal? What are you going into Discord with your guild mates, with your group mates tonight, and what are you guys going to be talking about? What's going to be different about the next run?
Well, I'm not sure how much of our comms, because again, I haven't had the luxury of seeing the tapes yet, but I'm not sure how much of our comms with broadcasts throughout the run, but I can tell you now the attitude is very much go again. Everyone is like, yep, we were originally only going to slot in for one slot and just one and done, do a safe-ish strategy, and we said, and you know, given what's happened, we're like, no, we want to go again. And without even saying a word, everyone was like, yep, let's get prepping, let's go again, let's make sure we don't make the same mistakes twice. I need to go away and do the prep, obviously, for that, but yeah, and no doubt I'm going to have an interview, a meeting with my officers, and they all agree with me. We go again.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you guys are motivated. I got one more question for you guys before I send you off to that Discord meeting. Listen, Taiba, what other guild out of the other 14 guilds here in this competition, who are you gunning for?
I mean, as I said in the interview before this, actually, being completely honest, we would be very happy if we put a respectable position in mid-table. We just don't want to be bottom, right? And we were terrified after wiping, we don't know if guilds are going to play safe and we're going to have a horrendous time. But honestly, we're capable of doing sub 1 hours. I believe, I'm not sure how much was analysed, we're capable of doing sub 1 hours on the pace we were at, I believe, which would be a big PB for us for our standards. So we're looking at top 5. Obviously, you're looking at the likes of Salad Bakers and stuff at the very top there for their players and their strategies well out of our reach, but we're going to do our best. We're always underdogs when we're performing like this, so we want to get a sub 1 hour. So whichever guilds end up around there, hopefully top 5 maybe, that's where we're looking at.
Well, Taiba, on behalf of myself, Mr. GM, and Sarth, and Raid Masters, thank you very much for an incredible interview, and good luck to your guild going forward.
Thank you very much, guys. Fantastic production. Look forward to running again.
Cheers.
See you later.
Okay, so you heard it from the legend himself, Taiba, giving us a little bit of insight as to the run, the unfortunate circumstances, but again, how they're going to bounce back from that and cruise into their second attempt of Raid Masters. Gentlemen, we've got some data to bounce through, though. A lot of data, actually. So why not why don't we go ahead and get into it?
All right. So guys, here looking at the logs, I have pulled up already basically the Gothic wipe. That's the first thing I wanted to look at. I'm probably sure that's the first thing you guys want to look at, what happened. And as he mentioned, I was anticipating that probably the Julius got threat on the threat meter. So here is where he's taking the damage, right? So here's where he's already taking damage, which means he needs to start healing. He's probably starting taking damage right around this mark, 1 minute and 36 seconds in. He's getting meleeed, right? Everything else is just an acid volley. So that's actually not intimidating at all. That's coming from the gargoyles that get pulled into here. So 1 minute and 36 seconds, he's actually using or getting meleeed. But the fear is, this is what it is. Found it. I knew it. I knew it. He healed because of the acid damage. He healed himself and he pulled aggro. So that's, I think they still had, let me go back. I think they still had the blessings going out. We can go to the paladins and see which ones are casting what. Casts, and then abilities. Kings. So the blessings are still going out the whole time. There's not really a break because there's a 1 minute and 36 seconds in where there is the issue. So the blessings were still fully going out, even at like a pace of every GCD, except for right here. You can see there's one break in between a GCD. But other than that, this is every GCD is a blessing. So the issue was he wasn't able to build enough threat past that crit heal that Julius actually cast on himself. So that is the biggest unfortunate thing that happened in the raid. That's what happened for the wipe, and that's how the wipe kind of got ended. And this happened about 30 minutes in. Let me change over to, you can see about 30 minutes in, they were actually at over like the DPS for their whole raid was actually very, very strong. Multiple warriors above 1,000 DPS, some above 1,100, which is what you'll see pretty much standard for these speed runs, these world record runs. There's almost always one or two people slightly at the top, a little higher than everyone else. Every guild has like their warriors that are just insane, and we all know who they are in the main guilds. And so their DPS was really good. Their pacing was pretty incredible. Their spider wing went pretty well as also. The Naxxramas was slightly longer than they wanted, and they did get slowed down on Naxxramas. It was a little scary. Right here is where they get the web wrap, and then they actually still killed it with the dots, but their Naxxramas was still really, really smooth. Moving past that, then they got to go to Saf, where we basically want to see how much frost res they did. Pretty much you need to use as much frost res as possible now that you've all died. Usually you're only running a couple pieces, but you can see that people are pretty much running everything with the bracers, not the ring here, but usually the bracers and the ring, the chest, the cloak. So they actually probably could have even used a little more frost resistance, which they did have a lot of deaths here. So like this warrior right here is just running two pieces. There's the chest as well. So like you could have gone, usually you would go for full frost resistance as you move in. And then one thing I didn't actually mention during the run itself is they actually ran 2 druids, which is more rare in speedruns nowadays to run 2 druids. You usually have 1, and the primary job of the druids is fairy fire. Because if we look at overall healing done, give it a second, guys. I apologize. Overall damage and healing done. Damage-wise, this damage is pretty standard for a run like this with wipes. But like ideally, they were before the wipe, they were all above like 1,000 DPS, and that is the ideal. And then you can see druids usually aren't as high as everyone else. They did get kind of a boost by having those wipes, so they can hot everything. But usually your druids are not really allowed to use rejuvenation and other hots on any of their tanks. Especially warriors will usually have cancel aura macros on their bloodthirst and heroic strike to cancel aura those so they don't push off buffs. But this run was a lot of deaths. This run was a lot of deaths, as you can see, guys. This was a rough run for our first run, and we're gonna go to a couple replays of the run from some of the biggest things that happened in this run, and so that is the log. We won't go through too much with you on this after we broke down what happened with that death or wipe.
Hey, I gotta say, SAR's deep dive is quite the segment there, gentlemen. Well done. Yes, here are the replays. I mean, we talked about it, Mr. GM. SAR, Mr. GM. I mean, were we just throwing out mad poggers right here when this happened?
Oh, just watch the game just completely freeze. Look at that. It's like a slideshow.
Oh,
there you
man,
go.
that's so good.
Mage goes down. He tried to heal him. There was like a clutch little heal attempt, but
Yeah.
it went down. Oh no,
Yeah, I think,
not this. Not like this.
Yeah, again, I think it's really a potential early lip that the mage did so that he could get on the threat table and die. And right there, you can see he had the paladin Julius had aggro there, and then just bubbles, and it's just over. As a horde player in my speedruns, I never have to like deal with that or watch that. So I'm glad that someone messaged me instantly saying that's how that happens.
Yeah, that was a super unfortunate event. I mean, had they been able to accomplish this, they'd already had the polls going smooth with the hunter. Things were looking good, but man, feels bad, dude.
Yeah, on pace, they definitely were on pace for a really, really solid run. By far their best run ever. And they were going to put up a top 10, top 15 world run with their pacing at the time. But after that happened, it just kind of, it always goes downhill. It's just unfortunate. And there's nothing really you can do to recover other than just really ground yourselves and look forward towards the next run.
You know, this moment, Sarth, you were a little bit concerned right here when they lost the tank because of the Holy Wrath that was about to go out and possibly could have chained their raid. That was another interesting moment during their Four Horsemen.
Yeah, they recovered really well. And then here, right there, look at the buff actually that was cast on the circle target. The resurrect and the buff basically just grabs aggro. This ends everything.
This is going to be the scripted
I
run
would
right here.
Yeah, this is the scripted run. If this is a scripted run, as we were going to tab over to it, in all honesty, I wouldn't have resurrected the player. I think it was too risky. It was a risky play. It was unfortunate, but
I love seeing them run away.
Yeah, it's like what are you gonna do?
They're gonna run to the entrance.
Comes down to who can maybe try to survive and keep those world buffs. As we saw, this rogue definitely accomplished that.
Yeah, and he's actually in a kind of a sketchy spot. I'm surprised that he was able to live here, but he's just like, I'm not in combat. I'm on a barrel to try to stay alive. And then here, this is where I didn't mention, right? As long as the polarity shift doesn't go out, right? That was perfect timing. Right now, they can already zone in and into Saf's room. They could already zone in, and now they're just waiting for the resurrect, basically, and for everyone to be into position. Now they can all run into Saf's room. And that's why we didn't see the animation of Saffron. He's already been engaged. But yeah, so if that other polarity shift had gone out, they would have had to wait like 30 seconds before even moving into Saf's room. Or they could have technically gone in, but not engaged. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the theme of this run was kind of a theme of seconds, right? I mean, on the mage dying on the lip, on the cubby pull, that was a matter of seconds. You had mentioned that the paladin might have been a few seconds early on some of those timings with the bubble and the pull. That's what it's going to come down to, guys. Here at Raid Masters, I mean, it's going to be those small seconds that make the difference. Unfortunately, it was a decision that made the big difference here. But in future runs, I would certainly expect that.
Yeah, I think things like when we see later today Rise play and like Baker's and stuff like that, like Baker's is second in the world by 8 seconds. And there's multiple times in that run where those 8 seconds could have been recovered. Just a Pat and Spiderwing could have recovered those 8 seconds. So like once you're at this level, everything is recovering just those seconds. And every second counts in a raid that's an hour long. So it just really adds up.
It certainly does. Excellent replays. Again, excellent plays throughout the day. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at our standings after our two guilds have finished their runs, I believe, or schedule rather, for the rest of the day. Excuse me. This is going to be us finishing the show right now. We're going to go into a bit of an hour and a half break or so. At 1:30 CET, we will be returning for the pre-show for North America. That's going to be in just about an hour and 50 minutes or so. And we will be starting the North American segment where, as Sarth mentioned, we have even more guilds going to be putting their skills to the test. Here is their leaderboard going into the North American guilds tonight. 2 out of the 3 guilds listed here will be running. Rise will be making their run, and so will Turbo Bus. Rain will be participating at another time slot, so keep your eyes and ears open for that one. But we'll see tonight what Rise and Turbo Bus are going to be able to put together. And so with that, guys, that's going to conclude our European portion of the show. I mean, a stellar start to Raid Masters Naxxramas for sure. For sure. However, we transition into North America later tonight, and that's going to be exciting. As I mentioned, don't forget, okay, about the North American show. It's going to be in about an hour and 50 minutes or so. But other than that, Mr. Sard, let me get your... Mr. GM, there we go. Mr. Sard.
I did it.
Yeah, there we go. Mr. GM, let me get your final thoughts on the European portion of the broadcast for day number 1.
A little bit disappointed on the Horde side to not see that whole run, but we did get a good kind of a bit of a chuckle out of the seeing them run away from the pull and wondering what on earth they're going to do. But yeah, no, I think it was good. I think it was good. You know, nice to see, you know, get some numbers on the board. You know, I'm happy they didn't just give up after Gothic. You know, after they wiped, they didn't just go, oh, you know what, whatever, right? So I'm glad we actually got to see KT go down. Looking forward to this evening. I think it's going to be really, really fun to watch. And I hope, you know, we're probably going to get a lot shorter time, I think, from some of the guilds later on tonight. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, I think the EU side was okay. Yeah.
Okay, what about you, Sard? Final thoughts.
I think it was a good start for the Raid Masters, but an unfortunate unfortunate things happen to both of the guilds. So we're gonna definitely see some crazy times being put up, and I would love to see in this next bout some of the guilds in the NA guilds put up a world record time. Rise is the fastest guild in the NA right now, beating Rain, which we'll see on the other time slot. So it is going to be just really entertaining to see, as long as it goes well. But as we've noticed and we mentioned before, like, things can just go wrong so quickly in here. So we're going to see exactly how it's going, and I'm very excited.
Absolutely, and so am I. Guys, Raid Masters is a new tournament for World of Warcraft, especially Classic Vanilla, where we have Naxxramas right in front of you. Make sure to drop a follow on the twitch.tv/Raidmasters website, as well as on Twitter over at twitter.com/RaidmastersGG. My friends, you will not be disappointed at the content you see coming out on those two channels. But that's going to do it for us here on the European broadcast. Don't forget that we had the North American broadcast in just under 2 hours here at the same spot, the same channel, this twitch.tv/Raidmasters. Myself, Sarth, Mr. GM are going to be back on the desk to bring you all of the action. And again, 2 more guilds trying to put up those massive, massive world record times. We'll see you in a few hours.